Chapter 681. Mad devil, damn it, Yi Fei, how dare you blaspheme the power of the Azura? The young master of the Azura clan was suddenly enraged, but deep in his eyes there was a flash of deep shock. In the end, a true Azura was a supreme god of war. Although the blood Azura was also an Azura, the Azura power in their bloodline was very thin and almost impossible to increase. But Yi Fei was different. He was just a mortal. He wasn't even a blood Azura, yet he had the power of an Azura. How could the young master not be shocked? However, shock aside, young Lord Shura was still a super genius with a combat power of 1,000,000. If it weren't for Yi Fei, he would be the strongest in the North region. Even the Blood Demon Sect Master would not be a match for him. This was because, just like Song Yu, the Blood Demon Sect Master had secretly borrowed a strand of Azura's bloodline power to temporarily increase his strength. This was also why Fu Renjie said that Song Yu did not possess his own power. This was also the reason why the sect master of the Blood Demon Sect, who had a combat power of 1,000,000, could not even block a single strike from Yi Fei. The reason for that was because that power did not belong to them. They were unable to completely control it. Only Blood Azura, who was also of the Azura bloodline, could fully unleash this power. Yi Fei, if you don't want anything to happen to your brother, then don't resist. Young Master Azura's blood surged like rivers of blood. His bloody palms formed a bloody waterfall. They were so powerful that the Northern Wilderness Heavenly Monarch and Beichuan Heavenly Monarch broke out in cold sweat. They had to admit that young Lord Azura was powerful. However, even in the face of such a terrifying attack, Yi Fei remained as still as a mountain. He continued to swing his fists, colliding with the young master's bloody hands countless times. The two of them quickly fought from the sky to the ground, and then from the ground to the sky. Bloodlight 10 kills. Young Lord Azura suddenly roared. His fist suddenly became as dazzling as the sun. Wherever it passed, the void shattered like glass. War Demon Golden Body. Yi Fei used defense as offense. His entire being was like an ancient war demon. He walked in the sky with his fists raised, shattering the space with every step he took. Then, with an unparalleled might, Yi Fei rushed to the young lord's side and stomped on the blood pool he had condensed, shattering it into pieces. Young Master Azura didn't dare to show weakness. He wasn't discouraged by the shattering of the blood pool. Instead, a sinister smile flashed across his face. Roar! The shattered blood pool suddenly transformed into 5 blood pythons. They opened their huge mouths and attempted to swallow Yi Fei. However, Yi Fei had already seen the strangeness of these blood pythons. He wasn't in a hurry. He opened his arms and pounced forward like a tiger. With a series of ripping sounds, he tore the blood pythons that were close to him into pieces like noodles. If there's a chance, blood burst. Bang! However, the blood of the torn blood pythons suddenly exploded and turned into boiling lava. The lava splashed onto Yi Fei's body. It was so hot that Yi Fei's war demon golden body showed signs of collapsing. Yi Fei suddenly became angry. He didn't say anything. Like a mad war demon, he suddenly lifted his leg and swept it out like an axe. The young master of the Shura sect suddenly screamed. Although he was unwilling, he was still no match for Yi Fei in terms of pure physical strength. He didn't retreat, and a treacherous look flashed across his face. His gloomy and cold voice suddenly became Luo Shi's anxious voice. "Brother Fei, don't kill me!" "It's Luo Shi?" Hearing this voice, Yi Fei panicked. He suddenly didn't know if he should continue attacking. Yi Fei, this is your weakness." Young Lord Azura laughed sinisterly. Taking advantage of Yi Fei's distraction, he suddenly pressed a bloody hand on Yi Fei's chest. Yi Fei felt a sharp pain in his chest. His war demon golden body instantly shattered. Before he could retreat, young Lord Azura, who saw the opportunity, laughed sinisterly. He didn't give Yi Fei any chance to defend himself. Blood Ray Cleave. The sky turned into a sea of blood. In the sea of blood, a terrifying blood-red ray of light mercilessly slashed at Yi Fei's body. Yi Fei's eyes couldn't help but turn gloomy. "Brother, it's all my fault," he roared at the sky. Suddenly, a resplendent sword light appeared all over his body. He was about to use his strongest attack. At this moment, the blood eagle, which had been circling in the sky for a long time, suddenly had a flash of light in its eyes. "Brother Fei, attack!" the blood eagle suddenly shouted. Then it swooped down. However, it didn't attack Yi Fei. Instead, it suddenly attacked young Lord Azura. "Luoshi, how dare you? I'm already being merciful by not killing you. How dare you secretly resist? Be destroyed!" Screech! The blood eagle let out a mournful cry. Suddenly, it was slashed by the blood-red ray, turning into a mass of chaotic air that dissipated between heaven and earth. "Luoshi, you actually killed Luoshi. I want your life. I want revenge for my brother." Yi Fei went berserk. He remembered that Luoshi had said that he and the spiritual eagle were one. If the spiritual eagle lived, Luoshi lived. If the spiritual eagle died, Luoshi would die. Now that the spiritual eagle was destroyed, Yi Fei was naturally sad and even more furious. "Kill!" With tears of blood, Yi Fei finally pulled out the phoenix blood sword. The sword light was resplendent. Suddenly, a sorrowful sword intent appeared between heaven and earth. Then, it began to burn like a raging fire. "This is the sorrowful sword intent? The furious sword intent?" This Yi Fei can actually comprehend the illuminated sword heart to such a level. Seeing the two sword lights, Sword Maniac Elder was extremely shocked. Here, no one understood the sword better than him. Therefore, he was titled the Sword Sage. But at this moment, Sword Maniac Elder suddenly realized that Yi Fei was more suitable for the title of Sword Sage than him. Humans have 7 emotions and 6 desires. Swords also have 7 emotions and 6 desires. Whoever can grasp it will be able to transform sword intent into sword force and enter a new realm of the way of the sword. Sword Maniac Elder sighed. He never expected that Luoshi's death would have such a huge impact on Yi Fei. It actually allowed Yi Fei to touch the threshold of sword force in his grief and anger. And this threshold was something that even Sword Maniac Elder, who had been obsessed with the way of the sword for hundreds of years, could not fully comprehend. "Brother, rest in peace. Let me use the sword in my hand to send you on your last journey." Yi Fei was furious. Yi Fei roared. Luoshi's death agitated Yi Fei so much that he nearly lost his mind. He could not tolerate such a thing. He also could not forgive young Lord Azura's cruel actions. "Kill you? No, killing you is too easy. I want to destroy your body and soul as a sacrifice to my brother's soul in heaven. Be destroyed." Poof! Yi Fei's body was covered in blood. He allowed young Lord Azura's bloody hands to tear his body apart, revealing deep white bones and internal organs. However, Yi Fei, who was in a frenzy, did not seem to feel any pain. He also did not feel that his life was slipping away. He had already entered a wonderful state of the Azura combat body, the Berserk Demon state. In this state, Yi Fei could not feel death or danger. The only thought left in his mind was to kill his enemy. Azura would not die until his blood ran dry. His anger would not be quenched until he beheaded his enemy. Yi Fei's eyes were like raging flames. His body was like a raging inferno. He raised the phoenix blood sword in his hand and slashed forward with all his might. This scene frightened young Lord Azura so much that he broke out in a cold sweat. For the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. He kept retreating, using all his skills to block Yi Fei's swordlight. He kept cursing. "Berserk Demon. Damn it, he is just a mortal. How can he enter the Berserk Demon state that even high-level blood Azuras, like us, can't enter? This is bad. If I let him continue to go crazy, not only will I not be able to kill him, but I will also help him comprehend the power of Azura. When he thought of this, young Lord Azura was so angry that 2 streams of fire came out of his nostrils. Yi Fei, stop. If you hurt me, you will hurt Luo Shi. Luo Shi is not dead. His life is still in my hands. Chapter 682. Armistice. However, Yi Fei, who had descended into madness, didn't stop. He only had eyes for his enemy. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Kill. Grief and anger caused the Azura energy in Yi Fei's body to become incomparably terrifying. He punched out. The light around his fist was like a blazing flame that wanted to incinerate everything, destroy everything. Lunatic, this lunatic. He really doesn't want to live anymore. He actually wants to fight me to the death. The young master kept retreating. Seeing that his threat was no longer effective, a terrifying blood-red light appeared on his body once again as he slashed at Yi Fei. Blood-red light, 10 slashes. Power of Shura. Yi Fei roared as he felt the young master's threat. The golden flame on his fist suddenly reached its limit and merged perfectly with the power of Shura. The battle demon body and the power of Shura. Not only do they not resist each other, but they can also merge perfectly. Doesn't this mean that I can cultivate the indestructible battle demon body and the Shura battle body at the same time and create a new body constitution? In his madness, Yi Fei's eyes suddenly flashed with understanding. Then, his eyes turned cold as his golden fist smashed the 10 blood-red lights in front of him into pieces. What? The young master also suffered some damage when the blood-red lights were destroyed. His face was filled with anger and malevolence. Damn it, I didn't expect the inheritance of the 6 sacred sects to be so powerful. Not only did it give him the power of Shura, but it also allowed him to enter the state of madness. The state of madness was the forbidden domain. However, the forbidden domain was something that ancient geniuses were born with. The battle god path allowed this innate ability to be cultivated and strengthened. After seeing how terrifying Yi Fei's state of madness was, the young master decisively gave up on the idea of continuing to fight with Yi Fei. He took advantage of his injuries and successfully retreated a few hundred meters. Then, his blood-red eyes suddenly turned black. The young master said one last time, "Luo Shi, if you don't want to die, let Yi Fei remove his state of madness." "I'm not dead, I'm not dead. That's right, this demon is using me to threaten Brother Fei." Luo Shi's eyes flashed with confusion. However, he quickly regained his senses. Luo Shi looked at the crazed Yi Fei and his eyes flashed with determination. He did not stop Yi Fei as the Shura young master had requested. Instead, he roared, "Brother Fei, kill me! Hurry up and kill me! It's Luo Shi. It's the real Luo Shi. How could this be? Didn't you say that once the spirit eagle died, you would also die?" Yi Fei was very familiar with Luo Shi's aura. He was unable to continue attacking, because this was the real Luo Shi and also his brother. "Brother, it's all my fault." The madness in Yi Fei's eyes vanished. He looked at Luo Shi, his eyes filled with self-blame. "It's fine. Wang Bai once said that we're all brothers, so there's no need to be so calculative. On the other hand, I'm too weak, and I'm a burden to Brother Fei. However, to be able to be Brother Fei's brother for so long, even if I, Luo Shi, die, it's worth it. Brother Fei, I'm leaving." Luo Shi suddenly roared. When he saw that Yi Fei could not bear to kill him, Luo Shi suddenly raised his right hand and was about to smash his own head. Luo Shi. Yi Fei's eyes turned red. He couldn't let Luo Shi die just like that. However, before Yi Fei could rush forward, Luo Shi's hand, which was about to land, suddenly stiffened. His black eyes turned blood-red once again. "Hee. You want to kill yourself? Luo Shi, this body already belongs to me. If I don't let you kill yourself, don't even think about dying." However, thanks to you, Yi Fei has finally broken out of his crazed demonic state. The Shura young master's face was sinister as he took control of Luo Shi's body once again. Yi Fei glared coldly at the Shura young master. His fury and murderous intent formed an invisible storm that howled around him. Let Luo Shi go and I'll let you do whatever you want with me. Yi Fei stated his condition. If possible, he would rather trade his own life for Luo Shi's. Ha ha ha. Of course I will let Luo Shi go. But only after he watches you die. The Shura young master's face was gloomy and cold. He didn't continue the fight with Yi Fei. He stepped back again. Soon, he was among the troops of the Blood Demon sect. Yi Fei, today I am not well prepared. Let's call a truce. In a month we will have a one-on-one fight at the border. Then we will fight to the death. Let's go. The Shura young master waved his hand. The millions of demons retreated slowly from the border. The remaining titled battle pet warriors Wu Jun followed them. After all, they had joined the Blood Demon sect and were going against the entire northern region. They had no other choice but to follow the Shura young master to the end. Where do you think you are going? Yi Fei, go after them. Kill the Shura young master and the demons. That will be our final victory. The Lord of the Northern Wilderness and the Lord of Beichuan were excited. Victory was right in front of them. They could not let the Blood Demon sect retreat so easily. They were about to order their troops to attack. All of a sudden, the Shura young master turned around with a sinister grin. Yi Fei, you better let my troops leave safely. Otherwise, I cannot guarantee your brother's life. Whoosh! The Shura young master threw a ball of white light into Yi Fei's hand. Yi Fei took a closer look and saw that it was an egg. Yi Fei immediately recognized that the spirit egg belonged to Luo Shi's spirit eagle. It turned out that young Lord Azura had only shattered the spirit eagle's body, but not its soul. What was sleeping in this spirit egg was the spirit eagle's soul. This also proved that Luo Shi was indeed still alive. Yi Fei held the egg. A cold glint flashed in his eyes, but he still waved his hand to stop them. Everyone, stop. Let them leave. Ha ha ha, Yi Fei, I knew that you would agree. This is your weakness. It is also the common weakness of all humans. It is also destined that you will never become a true Shura. We Shuras are emotionless. Brothers are like dogs and women are like clothes. As long as we can succeed, we can abandon our parents, wives, and children. What's more, a few brothers who are worse than dogs. The Shura young master's cold and smug voice came from the Blood Demon sect's retreating army. The demon's unbridled laughter could also be heard. Yi Fei did not say anything when he heard these voices. He only clenched his fists tightly. Fresh blood flowed out from between his fingers. Due to Yi Fei's obstruction, the Alliance's army did not dare to act rashly or chase after them. All the young martial kings were also looking at Yi Fei with admiration and regret. The Beichuan monarch and the Beihuang monarch even rushed over to complain to Yi Fei. Yi Fei, are you stupid? The Blood Demon sect was not prepared and did not expect you to appear. This is the best opportunity for you to kill the Shura young master and restore peace to the northern region. You actually stopped just because of one person's life? Yi Fei turned around coldly in the face of the two monarchs' accusations. He said in a low voice, even if it's just one person, he is still my brother. Compared to the northern region, my brother's life is more important. Whoosh! Chapter 683. Get ready. The 5 million soldiers at the border watched in silence as Yi Fei entered the city. The two monarchs looked at Yi Fei, who had ignored them and left. How arrogant. This Saint King of the North is indeed powerful, but he's too soft-hearted. He won't achieve anything great. The Northern Wilderness monarch was unhappy. If it weren't for Yi Fei's decision to stop, they would have severely damaged the Blood Demon sect. Sigh, in the end, he's still too young and too emotional. Sacrificing one person or saving the world, he doesn't even know which is more important. In the end, He's not a fierce and ambitious person. This Yi Fei is too narrow-minded and doesn't have the boldness that a saint king should have. The northern wilderness monarch was also unhappy. Coincidentally, Sword Maniac Elder happened to pass by. When he heard their conversation, he shook his head coldly and warned the two monarchs, "You two better be more polite when you speak. Yi Fei did not do anything wrong. Even if he did, it is not up to you two to criticize him." "How dare you, Sword Maniac? When we were the chosen ones, you weren't even a battle king. How dare you warn us?" The northern wilderness monarch was displeased. The northern wilderness monarch pulled him back and winked at him. The northern wilderness monarch immediately shut up. He was upset, but there was nothing he could do about Sword Maniac Elder and the Taishan sacred ground. Sword Maniac Elder was Wu Jun, but his swordsmanship was horrifying. He had shown his brilliance many times in the 3 months of battles. Sword Maniac Elder's heaven-sealing sword could weaken the enemy's attack by 70%. Many 3rd or 4th rank titled battle pet warriors found it difficult to deal with him. Besides, Yi Fei was also from the Taishan sacred ground. Therefore, the two monarchs stopped talking at the same time. Sword Maniac Elder didn't say much either. Before he left, he said meaningfully, "Martial arts is not the way of power. Maybe you should be glad that Yi Fei isn't a hero." Glad? The two monarchs were stunned. They carefully pondered over the meaning of Sword Maniac Elder's words. Soon, cold sweat rolled down their foreheads. Indeed, if Yi Fei was as ruthless as they had imagined, he would rather destroy the Blood Demon sect without caring about Luo Shi's life. That kind of Yi Fei was undoubtedly extremely terrifying, because if Yi Fei could sacrifice Luo Shi today, he might sacrifice even more people tomorrow. He might even use this opportunity to destroy the 4 countries of the northern region and become the emperor himself. At the thought of this, the northern wilderness heavenly monarch and the northern heavenly monarch shuddered at the same time. They could not help but smile bitterly and reluctantly. "Sigh, I finally understand why we're still monarchs after so many years." Yi Fei, on the other hand, was able to rise from the lowest level of martial artists to the northern region's holy king in just a few years. The northern wilderness monarch suddenly sighed. In the past, they were all geniuses of the northern region. Just like Yi Fei now, they did whatever they pleased and did whatever they wanted. However, after they broke through to Wu Jun and became monarchs, they were only below one person and above hundreds of millions of people. That lofty sentiments, that determination to pursue martial arts, had long since become dim and lifeless. It seems that we're really old. We've lost our ambitions and sincerity. Perhaps this is also why only Yi Fei could pass the assessment of the 6 sacred sects. With a trace of regret, the two monarchs left dejectedly. "Holy King! The Holy King is really back! Yi Fei, I knew you'd survive." Unlike the two monarchs' dejection, as soon as Yi Fei returned to the family Yi, the entire family Yi became noisy. Not only Yi Jian, but Yi Bufan, Zhang Huzi, and the others also came over to chat with Yi Fei. Jin Jizi, Frenzied Blade, and the other elders of the sacred sects also came over to join in the fun. In the crowd, Yi Fei also saw the flood dragon he had tamed, Blackie. After not seeing it for a while, Blackie had grown a lot, and its flood dragon tail had gradually evolved into a dragon's tail. Perhaps in a few hundred years, a true dragon would appear in the family Yi. While Yi Fei was catching up with the family Yi, Jing Wushou, Zhu Zhen, Qin Bing, and the other friends that Yi Fei had made, also came over from the barrack. In the end, even Fu Renjie, Lin Tianjiao, Chun Mengyao, and the 10 great kings came over to chat with Yi Fei. However, everyone deliberately avoided the topic of Luo Shi. Their conversation with Yi Fei was also very short. Then, they hurriedly bade farewell, leaving Yi Fei alone. Even so, Yi Fei still socialized for an entire day. It wasn't until evening that he finally had some free time to pay a visit to Sword Maniac Elder. However, before Yi Fei could leave, Sword Maniac Elder had already come looking for him. Old Master Jian. Yi Fei was very surprised and hurriedly bowed respectfully. Although he wasn't Sword Maniac Elder's master and disciple, in Yi Fei's heart, Sword Maniac Elder's position was always as important as the Demon Emperor's. Yi Fei, you don't have to be so courteous. I'm just here to tell you that you didn't do anything wrong today. Humans have 7 emotions and 6 desires, and swords also have 7 emotions and 6 desires. Compared to the Tao of forgetting emotions, perhaps the Tao of forgetting emotions is more suitable for our Tao of the sword. Sword Maniac Elder was hinting at something. He didn't give Yi Fei any specific pointers. Instead, he deliberately said vaguely, "The Tao of one's own understanding is far more suitable for oneself than the Tao taught by others. My own sword is far sharper than the sword of others." Yi Fei seemed to understand, but his eyes grew brighter. Sword Maniac Elder smiled slightly and didn't say anything else. Instead, he suddenly skipped the topic and asked, "In a month's time, you will have a decisive battle with the young master of the Blood Demon sect. This battle concerns Luo Shi's safety and the lives of the people in the northern region. Are you confident in this battle?" "I'm confident." Yi Fei's face darkened. Even if he wasn't confident, he had to force himself to be confident. "I definitely won't lose this battle. However, if I want to win, I still need Old Master Jian's help. I want you to tell the 2 monarchs that I need spirit stones. A large amount of spirit stones, preferably mid-grade and above." "Spirit stones? Alright, I'll tell the 2 monarchs that you can have all the spirit stones in the sacred ground." Sword Maniac Elder didn't ask anything. After knowing that Yi Fei needed spirit stones, he threw out the spirit stones he had on him and immediately went to look for more spirit stones. Hearing that Yi Fei needed spirit stones, the 2 monarchs felt a little pained. However, they quickly prepared 500,000 spirit stones and placed them in front of Yi Fei. Originally, they could have prepared more, but they didn't have that much time left. Looking at the mountain of spirit stones in front of him, Yi Fei could feel the trust they had in him. His gaze became even more determined. "I definitely can't lose the decisive battle in a month's time. I have to think of a way to save Luo Shi." After that, Yi Fei sat cross-legged in the middle of the pile of spirit stones. He circulated the Devil Sovereign Scripture and the Battle God's Tao at the same time. He wanted to try to break through to the 12th level of the Martial Saint Realm. Chapter 684. Breakthrough at the same time. At the base of the Blood Demon sect, the remaining members of the Blood Demon sect, Wu Jun, suddenly received an order to gather them for a meeting. Although they were worried about the final battle in a month's time, they were now completely bound to the Blood Demon sect. After receiving the order, these Wu Jun immediately rushed to the place where the young master of the Azura sect cultivated. "Greetings, young master." "Young master, may I know why you called us here in the middle of the night?" These Wu Jun were puzzled because the young master of the Azura sect had been smiling ever since they came in. He was smiling happily, but at the same time, he looked cold. Finally, one of the Wu Jun couldn't take the pressure anymore. He mustered up his courage and suddenly asked, "Young master, if I may ask, are you confident that you can win the battle with the Northern Region Holy King in a month's time? Victory? Ah, of course I have the confidence to win. I am the noble blood Azura. I am different from you weak humans. I was born with the power of Azura. Only we can fully utilize the power of Azura." The Azura young master's face was full of confidence. Hearing this, the worried Wu Jun relaxed. One of the demons, Wu Jun, patted his chest and said, "Young master, don't worry. We are all loyal and devoted to the Blood Demon sect. We are all willing to go through fire and water for you. We won't hesitate to die for you. Yes, we won't hesitate to die for you. We swear allegiance to you and the Blood Demon sect." The other Wu Jun shouted, regardless of whether they were willing or not. What a great way to say it. I have already said that brothers are like dogs and women are like clothes. As for my subordinates, they are nothing more than a bunch of dogs. It just so happens that I need something to deal with that Yi Fei. I hope that you won't be stingy and offer it to me. The Azura clan's young master started to madly and eerily laugh. His laughter caused the titled martial lords present to suddenly have a bad premonition. It was still that evil demon martial lord who continued to ask, "Young master, may I ask what you want us to offer?" "I want you to offer your lives." He puffed. Without any warning, a bloody hand wrung Wu Jun's head off on the spot. Then, more bloody hands reached out and grabbed the other Wu Jun's. The angry and terrified roars of Wu Jun and his men soon echoed through the night sky, but they soon returned to normal. The entire blood demon sect's encampment became so quiet that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. It was as gloomy as a ghost town. Boom! A month's time quickly passed. In order to prepare for the final battle, the two country masters had made ample preparations within the border. Also on that day, within the border pass, a pillar of light that soared into the sky suddenly exploded. The titled martial lords who felt the pillar of light all looked in the direction of the pillar of light in surprise. Someone has entered the 12th level of the martial saint realm and become the new titled Wu Jun. Could it be that Yi Fei has broken through? The news came quickly. To everyone's disappointment, it wasn't Yi Fei who had broken through to Wu Jun. It was Lin Tianjiao. Lin Tianjiao almost vomited blood when he saw the disappointment on everyone's faces. Damn it. When Fu Renjie broke through, all of you were so happy that you couldn't close your mouth. But when it came to me, no one congratulated me. Congratulations, Lin Tianjiao. At this time, Yi Fei just came out of seclusion and congratulated Lin Tianjiao. Lin Tianjiao was very depressed. Yi Fei, why haven't you broken through yet? What? The sacred king of the north hasn't broken through yet? The others were surprised as well. In order to help Yi Fei break through, the two country masters had gathered all the spirit stones they could find. However, Yi Fei still hadn't broken through. That shouldn't be. Yi Fei, your combat power has already broken through 1,000,000, right? Why haven't you broken through yet? Fu Renjie and Chen Mengyao walked over together. Lin Tianjiao didn't know if it was an illusion, but the two of them seemed to be very close recently. When he heard that Yi Fei's combat power had already exceeded 1,000,000 even though he hadn't broken through to Wu Jun, Lin Tianjiao suddenly felt a huge blow. Chen Mengyao also felt a lot of pressure. Of the 5 geniuses, besides Yi Fei, Fu Renjie and Song Yu had already broken through. Lin Tianjiao had also gained great enlightenment after watching Yi Fei's battle. After a month of bitter cultivation, he had also broken through. Only Chen Mengyao still showed no signs of breaking through. How could Chen Mengyao not be anxious? She was so anxious that she moved closer to Yi Fei and said, "This doesn't make sense. If Lin Tianjiao can break through by watching the battle, why can't I? Yi Fei, why don't you fight with Fu Renjie and Lin Tianjiao at the same time? I'll see if I can break through." When Lin Tianjiao heard this, he was so scared that he almost vomited blood. Asking him to fight with Yi Fei, who had a combat power of 1,000,000, was simply insane. Fu Renjie's face was also very pale. Yi Fei smiled bitterly. Breaking through depended on luck. It wasn't something that could be done by just fighting. However, it was strange. His combat power had already reached 1,000,000, which was the limit of a martial king. At the same time, 1,000,000 combat power was also the limit of Yi Fei's body. If it were anyone else, they would be able to forcibly break through to the level of a titled martial lord with their battle power. However, no matter how hard Yi Fei tried to break through, he still couldn't enter the 12th level of the martial saint realm and become a titled Wu Jun. When Yi Fei voiced out his confusion, the titled Wu Jun of the Alliance were very surprised. What? 1,000,000 combat power and he still can't break through? Is his talent limited? Talent limited, my ass. With the Sword King's talent, why would he be afraid of talent limitations? Yi Fei, it seems that you have reached a bottleneck because you have improved too fast. Bottlenecks are different from martial arts barriers. Barriers are the shackles of our bodies, while bottlenecks are the shackles of your soul. You have to rely on yourself to break through. In the end, the Lord of Beichuan and Beihuang Heavenly Country found out the reason why Yi Fei couldn't break through. Yi Fei was very upset. It was wrong to cultivate too fast. Luckily, I didn't break through to the Martial King realm during my seclusion, but I did reach the second level of the path of God of War. With a combat power of 1,000,000 and the power of the sacred artifact, Yi Fei was confident that he could fight against Wu Jun, who was at the 6th level of the titled realm. On top of that, he also had the forbidden power of Azura, which had been enhanced by the 2nd level of the path of God of War. At the moment, he wasn't even afraid of Wu Jun, who was at the 9th level of the titled realm. I don't believe that young Lord Azura can improve his strength to the 10th level of Wu Jun. Brother, wait for me. I will get you out soon. Boom. Just as Yi Fei was thinking about this, the roars of the demons from the Blood Demon Church once again rang out from outside the city. However, compared to a month ago, the number of the Blood Demon Sect's troops had decreased significantly. None of the titled Wu Jun who had sided with the Blood Demon Sect could be seen. Yi Fei found it strange. But no matter how strange it was, this battle was inevitable. Let's fight. Chapter 685. A fight to the death then, that person must be me. Yi Fei flew into the sky, ignoring the army of demons outside. He walked straight toward the young master of the Shura clan. This was a show of confidence and contempt. The young master of the Shura clan was enraged by Yi Fei's arrogance. Yi Fei, do you think this is still 1 month ago? Now, I will show you how terrifying the real Blood Shura is. Blood Demon descends. A blood-red beam of light as thick as a bucket emerged from the young master of the Shura clan. Yi Fei saw a bone blade in the young master's hand. It was glowing with a strange blood-red light. Yi Fei could tell right away that it was a holy weapon, a very strange holy weapon. Around the holy weapon, there were 10 titled battle pet warriors of Wu Jun's soul roaring at the same time. How is this possible? Those are all titled battle pet warriors of the Blood Demon Sect, Wu Jun. How could the young master of the Shura clan kill them and use them to forge an evil holy weapon? All the Wu Jun members of the Blood Demon Alliance were in an uproar. Even though they were enemies, they felt sorry for the young master of the Blood Demon Alliance. Yi Fei stared at the young master of the Shura clan in shock. How can you be so cruel? You won't even spare your loyal subordinates? That's right. We of the Blood Shura clan are cruel. In this world, there is only the strong and the weak. There is no right or wrong. Yi Fei, if you don't want your brother Luo Shi to be killed by me, then accept your death obediently. Blood Demon cut. Boom. The young master of the Shura clan raised the bone blade in his hand and slashed forward. A long streak of blood-red light rolled forward. It was terrifying. Even the martial kings of the Blood Demon Sect were frightened by this aura. They felt as if their souls were about to be torn apart by the bone blade. But in the face of this strike, Yi Fei did not retreat. The phoenix blood sword in his hand had already ignited. It was like a raging inferno, but also like a meteor. When he thrust out his sword, the world trembled. A horrifying sword image formed a whirlpool and quickly clashed with the blood chi. Then, the saber chi and sword intent exploded at the same time, turning into flowing light and disappearing from the world. In their first exchange of blows, Yi Fei and the young master of the Azura clan were once again evenly matched. This made Yi Fei's expression turn ugly. Clearly, the young master of the Azura clan's combat strength had increased a lot in the past month. The moment the sword and saber collided, a powerful force nearly caused Yi Fei to lose his grip on the Phoenix blood sword. 9th level Martial Lord. This young master of the Azura kingdom has devoured the blood energy of all the titled martial lords under him. His battle power has very possibly risen to the 9th level of the martial lord realm. The Beichuan kingdom's ruler's expression was incomparably grave. What? 9th stage Wu Jun? Then won't Yi Fei be likely to lose? The other Wu Juns of the alliance looked worried. After all, this battle was not only related to the grudge between Yi Fei and the young master of the Azura clan. Similarly, it was also related to the future of the northern region. If Yi Fei won, the northern region would still be able to maintain its original state. But if Yi Fei lost and the Blood Demon sect won, then the northern region would become a complete demonic territory. Hundreds of millions of people would live under the threat of the demons and live in precarious conditions. Yi Fei must win this battle. Many martial artists were silently praying. Inside the city, countless low-level martial artists had already formed a long line in front of Yi Fei's statue. They could not participate in this battle, so they could only choose to believe in Yi Fei and hope that Yi Fei would win. Rumble! 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 The fiery sword light and the demonic glow of the bone blade kept colliding, parting, and then colliding again. However, Yi Fei and the young master of the Azura clan were on par with each other in terms of combat strength, and they both had divine artifacts. For the time being, neither could do anything to the other. Kill. The young master of the Azura clan was shocked and furious when he saw that the bone blade forged by Wu Jun's subordinates was still unable to do anything to Yi Fei even after sacrificing all of them. Yi Fei, you're just a mortal. How dare you try to steal the power of the Azura clan? You deserve to die. The 6-path sacred sects should also be destroyed. Blood light destroys gods. The bone blade in his hand suddenly became incomparably huge. The young master of the Azura clan raised it with both hands and swung it down viciously. The sky was torn in half by the bone blade and shattered into invisible fragments that enveloped Yi Fei. However, before the bone blade could get close, Yi Fei suddenly raised the wind-blood sword in his hand and swung it forward with a roar. The void split open. Yi Fei's expression was cold as he stepped into the void with his sword and appeared behind the young master of the Azura clan. His sword light soared into the sky and formed a huge black sword that split the sky. The terrifying sword's shadow pierced the back of the young master of the Azura clan in the blink of an eye. Blood Hand Azura. The young master of the Azura clan did not even turn his head when he felt the sudden attack coming from behind him. Instead, hundreds of bloody hands extended from his back. In the middle of each bloody hand, there was a sinister eyeball that stared coldly at the sword light and emitted a demonic glow. 100 eyes kill the enemy. Yi Fei die. Rumble. The void started to shake. The hundreds of bloody hands seemed to have grown eyes as well. As they coldly charged towards the sword's shadow, the bloody hands suddenly turned into hundreds of bloody pythons that roared crazily and continuously collided with the sword light. Soon, the sword light was completely drowned out. Blood Demon Slash. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the young master of the Azura clan turned around coldly. He raised his bone blade again and charged towards Yi Fei. A huge bloody light formed into a waterfall and was about to cut Yi Fei in half. Woo 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 woo. At the same time, the roars of a group of ghosts sounded in Yi Fei's ears. It turned out that they were the dozen Wu Juns that the young master of the Azura clan had killed. They were born with resentment and were refined into evil spirits after death. Layers of illusions were created to confuse Yi Fei's mind. Seeing this, Yi Fei only sneered. Sword Heart Illumination, Devouring Sword Intent. Since you all committed evil in life, there's no need for you to exist after death. All of you shall be destroyed. Rumble. An enormous black hole appeared behind Yi Fei. Suddenly, it opened its mouth and swallowed Yi Fei, as well as the roaring martial monarch vengeful spirits beside him. Young Master Azura's saber ray naturally missed its target. It passed through Yi Fei and struck the ground, slicing a mountain in half from the middle. Boundless demonic aura surged out from the crack in the mountain peak, turning it into a demonic peak. The countless young martial kings who were watching the battle nearby were so frightened that their faces turned white. However, before they could regain their senses, more than 10 miserable shrieks came from the black hole. With a rumble, Yi Fei charged out of the black hole again. However, there were no more vengeful spirits around him. Instead, there was only a huge burning sword light. Young master of the Azura clan, is this all you've got? Then die. Yi Fei's expression was cold. He used all his strength to slash down. As the sword slashed down, the entire sky turned into a world of raging flames. He kill me? Don't forget whose body I'm occupying now. The young master of the Azura clan let out a sinister laugh. He deliberately used Luo Shi's voice. Brother Fei, don't kill me. I'm Luo Shi. I'm your brother. Luo Shi? You're Luo Shi? Yi Fei's sword light paused. He seemed to be hesitating. Chapter 686. A very vicious sword. Luo Shi's sinister laughter came from Luo Shi's mouth. While Yi Fei was distracted, Luo Shi successfully dodged the sword light and rushed in front of Yi Fei. Blood demon slash. Demonic energy filled the sky as a huge bone blade swept forward and slashed towards Yi Fei's neck. Young Master Shura had used almost all of his strength in this attack. There was a sinister grin on his face, as if he had succeeded in his scheme. He also believed that his blade would definitely be able to kill Yi Fei. After all, every second counted in a battle between experts. Sometimes, a moment of carelessness could decide the outcome of the battle. Of course, this was only if the opponent was careless. Behind Yi Fei stood Family Yi, Elder Sword Maniac, Jing Wushou, Zhu Zhen, Qin Bing, and his other friends. There were also millions of soldiers. In this situation, how could Yi Fei be careless and be distracted? Young Master Shura, you've been tricked. Boom. The moment the bone blade fell, Yi Fei's expression changed from hesitation to determination. He let out a roar more terrifying than a thunderclap. It was the war demon's roar. At this moment, resplendent golden light shone from Yi Fei's body. It was so dazzling that people couldn't open their eyes. What? Young Master Shura suddenly realized that his bone blade had been grabbed by a golden hand. It was as if a giant had grabbed a mountain. Let go! Fear flashed through the depths of young Master Shura's eyes. He started to roar like a ferocious beast that had been grabbed by its claws and teeth. He started to struggle violently. The bone blade emitted an intense demonic light that was as sharp as needles. The light shot in all directions and pierced countless holes in the void. Yi Fei, who had grabbed the bone blade with his bare hand, suddenly felt a sharp pain in his palm. The demonic light actually pierced through his war demon's golden body and his palm, emitting a blood-red radiance. Young Master Shura believed that Yi Fei would definitely let go of the bone blade unless Yi Fei wanted his hand to be crippled. Young Master Azura was even prepared to do his best to snatch the bone blade back. He was just waiting for Yi Fei to let go of the blade when he couldn't bear the pain. At this moment, Yi Fei's eyes flashed with a frightening ferocity. Brother! He thought of Luo Shi, whose body had been taken over, and also thought of the bits and pieces of their past together. Brother, I've already lost it once. I definitely won't lose it a second time. Even if this hand is shattered, I still won't let go. Yi Fei's expression turned ferocious. Ignoring the pain in his palm, he did not let go. Instead, he tightened his grip and used even more strength. This shocked the young master of the Azura clan, who was pulling with all his might. Yi Fei, you're crazy. That's right, I'm crazy because Luo Shi is my brother. Get out of my brother's body. Kill. With his left hand grabbing the demon's bone blade, Yi Fei's right hand unceremoniously swung the phoenix blood sword at the Shura young master. Hee, so that's how it is. You didn't hesitate to cripple your hand to save Luo Shi. What a touching brotherhood! You humans are really a disgusting and stupid inferior race. Since you want this bone blade, I'll give it to you. Young Master Azura had no intention of leaving Luoshi's body, nor did he want to be killed by Yi Fei. Therefore, he very cunningly chose the third option. Young Master Azura knew that as long as he was in Luoshi's body, Yi Fei would not dare to kill him. Therefore, he suddenly gave up on fighting for the bone blade and rapidly retreated. Boom! Yi Fei's sword also missed its target. His expression turned extremely ugly. He had practiced this trick of injuring himself to gain young Lord Azura's confidence countless times. He hadn't expected that young Lord Azura would be able to resolve it so easily. Kill! The anger in his heart boiled. Yi Fei stepped forward, but his phoenix blood sword still did not leave young Master Azura's throat. You don't dare to kill me! Hee hee, Yi Fei, you're such a person. You'd rather cripple your hand for your brother. I don't believe that you'll really kill me. Killing me is the same as killing your brother. Yi Fei, do you dare? Do you have the guts? Ah! Young Master Azura laughed maniacally. He stood on the spot, his expression cold and cunning as he watched Yi Fei's sword stab at his throat. At the same time, hundreds of bloody hands appeared behind him again. This time, the eyes in the middle of the bloody hands all opened, forming a dense mass of scarlet eyeballs. They stared coldly at Yi Fei before swallowing Yi Fei. Dance of the Blood Pythons. Yi Fei, your life. This young lord will gladly accept it. Roar. Countless bloody hands turned into blood pythons, opening their huge mouths and swallowing Yi Fei. At this moment, Yi Fei's sword was only 10 meters away from young Master Azura's throat. However, he didn't stab down at this distance. Instead, he roared, sheathed his sword, and raised his saber. Yi Fei grabbed the wicked demon bone blade and threw it out. Explode! No. Young Master Azura's proud face suddenly turned pale. Then, he became enraged. He didn't expect Yi Fei to destroy his sage weapon. One must know that he had paid a huge price to create this bone blade. It was a great killing weapon that he had used to kill Yi Fei. When he saw the bone blade that he had painstakingly created explode in the air and blow apart hundreds of his blood pythons, even the gloomy young master of the Azura clan was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of black blood. Then, in the midst of the exploding blood pythons' corpses, young Master Azura's body suddenly emitted 10 rays of holy light, which helped him block the terrifying impact of the sage weapon's explosion. That's the power of the Saint Bodhi. So that's why you have a combat power of 1,000,000 after merging with the Saint Bodhi. Yi Fei was shocked. Only now did he know the true source of young Master Azura's power. That's right. This is the Saint Bodhi. Damn it. If you hadn't taken 2 of them, I would have stepped into the 12th level of the Martial Saint Realm and become the strongest titled Wu Jun in the Martial Sky continent. Yi Fei, you must be very curious as to why we can't reach the Wu Jun level even though we both have a combat power of 1,000,000, right? Young Master Azura wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said proudly and coldly. Could it be because of the Saint Bodhi? Yi Fei wasn't stupid. He quickly understood what young Master Azura meant. Young Master Azura nodded and sneered. The power of the Saint Bodhi is very special. Any martial artist who comes into contact with it only has one choice, and that is to merge with it. Only by successfully merging with it can one step into a higher realm. Now, do you understand how great our enmity is? If a mortal like you hadn't ruined my plans, how could I still be stuck in the 10th level of the Martial King realm? Now, I'll let you know the power of the Saint Bodhi. Kill. Blood World's holy light slash. Boom. The whole world suddenly became exceptionally bright. In the dazzling light, a total of 10 huge balls of holy light surrounded the blood-red sword light. They were like 10 suns, and they blasted toward Yi Fei. Although it was an evil martial art, under the pale yellow light, Yi Fei suddenly felt a strange and peaceful aura. Is that the aura of Buddha? Chapter 687. To perish together, blood world holy light / Ye Fei, you're dead meat today. The Azura clan's young master had an ominous glint on his face. His boundless blood aura was like a landslide and a tsunami. In the end, it completely condensed into an enormous crimson blade ray. It tore through the sky and slashed toward the earth. The titled martial lords present all lost their color, and their hearts trembled involuntarily. Sky Destroyer, Sky Destroyer! Boom! Once again, a ray of sword light emerged from Ye Fei. That ray of sword light was strong enough to destroy heaven and earth and slay gods and demons. The ray of sword light tore open the sky. Another ray of sword light tore open the sky and slashed forward. Wherever the ray of sword light went, the sky seemed to have ceased to exist. Everything was reduced to nothingness. That was the Sky Destroyer. Even the sky could be destroyed, not to mention the young lord of the Ashura clan. Ye Fei had done his best. Not only did he release the complete sword intent, but he had also infused it with all the strength of the Ashura clan. As far as the eye could see, there seemed to be two colors above the crowd. One was the color of blood and the other was the glow of the sword. Who will win this battle? All the titled battle pet warriors Wu Jun gazed at the sky. The collision of the sword and the saber was an eye-opener for them. Their hearts were trembling. They are only at the 10th rank of the martial king realm, but they can exert a combat strength of 1,000,000. Those two young people would be top talents even in the Central Plains. Many titled battle pet warriors Wu Jun exclaimed. Fu Renjie and the others stared at the two approaching figures. With a boom, Ye Fei's ray of sword light and the ray of sword light from the young lord of the Ashura clan clashed together. Another huge windstorm burst out, spreading for thousands of meters. Anything within that range was either smashed into pieces by the ray of sword light or destroyed by the ray of sword light. In the middle of the battlefield, two huge ravines 100 meters deep were quickly formed. One of the ravines slashed towards the Alliance's army formation, shaking the dozen or so titled martial lords. They all coughed up blood and retreated. They were not lightly injured. The other ravine slashed towards the Blood Demon Church's army. However, the current titled martial lords of the Blood Demon Church had all died. None of the remaining evil demon martial kings were able to block Ye Fei's sword light. Who knew how many evil demons were turned into ashes by the sword light? Terrifying, too terrifying. The other demons were shocked. They looked at Ye Fei with horror and terror. If it weren't for young Lord Azura's power, they would have turned around and fled for their lives. In the sky, young Master Azura's expression was extremely ugly as he looked at the deep wound on his body. He had almost been killed by Ye Fei's sword light just now. Ye Fei, this is your brother's body. If you kill me, you'll be killing your brother. How dare you? Young Lord Azura couldn't believe it. The reason why he chose Luo Shi as his body was because he was sure that Ye Fei was a loyal and righteous person and would never harm his own brother. That way, he would be able to gain an advantage in the battle against Ye Fei. Still, young Lord Azura had miscalculated. He didn't expect that Ye Fei would have the guts to kill him and his brother. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. You must be trying to scare me. Emotions are the biggest weakness of you humans and the most disgusting part of you. I don't believe that you would have the guts to kill your brother. Go to hell. Cut of the blood world. Boom. The blood-red sword light appeared again. Young Lord Azura's eyes were bloodshot. The 10 sacred Bodhi pearls around him once again emitted a holy glow. 10 shooting stars were formed and the sacred Bodhi pearls smashed onto the ground. Ye Fei's expression was cold as he faced the sword light. He raised the phoenix blood sword, but his body suddenly swayed. With a cry, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Hee, the Emperor's sword technique isn't that easy to use. Ye Fei, you used all your strength to barely block my attack. Let's see how you block my second attack. Cut. Young Lord Azura was so excited that his entire body was trembling. As long as he killed Yi Fei, he would be able to take back the sacred Bodhi pearls that he had lost. He would then be able to condense the 12 primordial spirits and become the strongest Wu Jun. As long as he killed Yi Fei, he would be able to lead the Blood Demon sect to control the entire North region. He would reign supreme. Kill you! Kill you! Kill you! Ha 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 ha! With a triumphant and proud laugh, the blade light finally landed. In an instant it slashed onto Yi Fei's body. This scene caused all the spectators to widen their eyes. Could it be that even someone as powerful as Yi Fei will die? Our northern region is finished. A titled martial lord revealed a pessimistic expression as he looked at Yi Fei, who was gradually being engulfed by the blood-red light. No, Yi Fei will not lose. If he can defeat me, he will definitely defeat young Lord Azura. Fu Renjia's eyes were like torches as he stared fixedly at the sky. Lin Tianjiao, Chen Mengyao, Jing Wushou, and Qin Bing were also confident in Yi Fei. There were also many young martial kings who had witnessed Yi Fei's strength. Yi Fei, you have to do your best. Many young martial kings were praying in their hearts. Boom! As if to answer their prayers, Yi Fei's body was gradually being swallowed by the bloody light in the sky. Once again, a brilliant ray of sword light shot out. He had been waiting for this ray of sword light for a long time. He had been preparing for it for a long time. However, Yi Fei had refrained from using it until the young lord of the Azura clan had exhausted all of his strength and could no longer dodge it. Finally, Yi Fei made his move. His body that had been swallowed by the bloody light suddenly burst out with the most horrifying dark ray of sword light. Yi Fei's devouring sword intent was fully unleashed without any hesitation. You want to kill me? Why don't we die together? Yi Fei sneered. He ignored the blood world's holy light that was destroying his body. The phoenix blood sword that was covered in blood suddenly turned into a huge fiery sword shadow that was also aimed at the young lord of the Azura clan. The young lord of the Azura clan was horrified. He couldn't believe that Yi Fei would be so crazy. He would rather take the blood world's holy light head-on than take the chance to perish together with him. You're crazy. Yi Fei, you're AF * king crazy. You're willing to sacrifice your life to save Luoshi, to save a dog. The young lord of the Azura clan cursed. However, his curses were quickly drowned out by Yi Fei's furious roar and the sound of his sword. Shut up. Remember Luoshi, he's my brother. Brother, rest in peace. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, the sword also descended. The huge ray of sword light was merciless as it slashed at the young lord of the Azura clan and Luo Shi's body. With this strike, Luo Shi and the young lord of the Azura clan would definitely be finished. Yi Fei couldn't help but shed tears of blood the moment he drew his sword. The young lord of the Azura clan's eyes finally revealed complete fear when the sword light landed on his body. He's serious. He's a madman. He would rather kill Luo Shi than perish together with me. No, Yi Fei, I won't let you do that. I'll let you watch with your own eyes as you kill your brother with your own hands. Then, you'll live in endless regret. Chapter 688. Azura blood curse. Sensing that Yi Fei was really willing to die, the young master of the Azura blood cult was extremely unwilling after his initial fear. After all, he had not put in so much effort just to perish together with Yi Fei. I want to rule the entire northern region. I want to become the strongest genius. My future is brighter than the sun. I can't die here with a lunatic like Yi Fei. Bam! With resentment and helplessness, the young master of the Azura blood cult was forced into a dead end. He decisively transformed into countless rays of blood light and drilled out of Luo Shi's body. Then, he retreated to a safe distance at lightning speed, forming a blood-red shadow that stood in the air. Brother Fei. Without the blood shadow's control, Luo Shi finally regained control of himself. Then, he watched as Yi Fei mercilessly slashed down with his sword while shedding tears of blood. Luo Shi instantly understood what was going on. He did not feel resentment or fear. He only smiled as he looked at Yi Fei and watched as the giant sword gradually engulfed his body. Brother Fei, to be able to be brothers with you in this lifetime, I, Luo Shi, can die with no regrets. Luo Shi, I feel the same. To be able to meet a few bosom buddies in this lifetime, so what if I die? Yi Fei laughed heartily. Suddenly, he wiped away the tears of blood on his face. The merciless sword that was originally aimed at Luo Shi was forcefully split into two at the moment of Luo Shi's death. Boom! In the end, the sure-kill sword split into two sword shadows, narrowly brushing past Luo Shi's body. Even so, Luo Shi was also severely injured. He screamed as he fell to the ground. But soon, a hand grabbed him. It was Yi Fei's hand. Luo Shi was extremely shocked because Yi Fei was practically a man of blood at this moment. Although he had successfully forced the young master of the Azura blood cult out of Luo Shi's body by daring to die, Yi Fei had also taken the brunt of the young master of the Azura blood cult's strongest attack. His body was severely injured. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that if young Master Azura had been a little more ruthless, he would have been as willing to die as Yi Fei. In that case, even if Yi Fei managed to save Luo Shi, he would definitely be killed by young Master Azura. Of course, it was also very likely that young Master Azura would be killed by Yi Fei's sword before he died. Unfortunately, young Master Shura didn't have that kind of determination, nor did he have the courage to die. So, he retreated. At the last moment, he used the blood demon body disintegration to escape from Luo Shi's body, allowing Yi Fei to successfully save Luo Shi. Fei! Looking at Yi Fei, who was covered in blood and even his bones were exposed, Luo Shi felt a lump in his throat. Suddenly, he could not help but cry bitterly, "It's all my fault for implicating you." Seeing Yi Fei willing to commit suicide in order to save his brother, the young master of the Azura clan was shocked. Then, he suddenly felt extremely embarrassed. Damn it, this young master was actually tricked. Yi Fei, you weren't trying to commit suicide. You were just trying to scare me. Go to hell. Blood World Holy Light / Boom! The sky was dyed red, instantly forming a sea of blood. Taking advantage of Yi Fei's heavy injuries, young Master Shura was unwilling to give up. He once again used all his strength and tried to sneak an attack on Yi Fei. Yi Fei also quickly sensed young Master Shura's intentions. He pushed Luo Shi away and pushed him towards the Alliance's camp. At the same time, his sharp eyes were filled with indifference and anger as he stared coldly at young Master Shura. This gaze suddenly made young Master Shura feel a great sense of fear. But before he could figure out where this fear came from, Yi Fei moved again. Yi Fei moved again. He straightened his heavily injured body, like a sharp sword, like an angry dragon. His hair fluttered in the wind, and then, an incomparably terrifying destructive sword light appeared. Then, it exploded from inside out. Boom! The undying sword soul awakened in his body. It seemed to be roaring and angry. Following Yi Fei's will, a large amount of purple energy instantly surged into Yi Fei's body. Under young Master Shura's fearful gaze, Yi Fei's heavily injured body rapidly recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yi Fei raised the Phoenix Blood Sword again. The fiery sword shadow burned the sky and shattered young Master Shura's third Blood World Holy Light / Young Master Shura's blood shadow suddenly trembled. He roared in shock, "No, this can't be true. You were clearly heavily injured by me and your combat strength was completely depleted. You should be waiting for death. Why is there still such a terrifying power in your body? You want to know? Go ask the King of Hell yourself when you're in hell." Yi Fei's face was as cold as ice. The sword fire in his hand was burning like lava. Apocalyptic sword, burning sky style. Boom! A sword fire that was dozens of meters long suddenly appeared in the sky. It tore through space and burned the sky and earth. Damn it, you lowly human. Don't even think about killing me. I'm the noble blood Shura, holy Shura, blood world holy light. The sea of blood roared and was condensed into a huge blood sword by young Master Shura. It slashed towards Yi Fei's sword fire. At this moment, a ruthless smile flashed across Yi Fei's face. What's the use of blocking it? If I want you to die, you won't be able to live. Killing apotheosis realm empty fist. Boom. The terrifying sword intent dissipated. The blazing fist intent appeared again from Yi Fei's body. He stood in the sky like an ancient ancestor. He looked death in the face and punched out coldly. The ruthless fist intent ignored the sea of blood and hit young Master Shura's blood shadow. At this moment, young Master Shura was still feeling smug. He thought that he had successfully blocked Yi Fei's sword fire. Even in his dreams, he didn't dare to believe that there was such a suicidal fist technique in this world. To kill one's enemy, one had to kill oneself first. He didn't even have time to react. A vast and ancient iron fist had already shattered the sea of blood and his blood shadow. I actually lost. Blood Shura, actually lost to a lowly human. Young Master Shura's face was filled with despair and fear. In the end, this fear turned into a deep hatred. The instant blood shadow exploded. He suddenly stared at Yi Fei with an extremely malicious gaze and cursed him one last time. Yi Fei, I curse you! You will be hunted down by me, blood Shura, for all eternity. Yi Fei, I curse you! You will encounter an inner demon the moment you step into the martial sage realm. Your body and soul will be destroyed. Yi Fei, your fate was sealed the moment you obtained the sacred Bodhi and killed me. You were abandoned by the heavens. You will also be abandoned by the heavens. Ha 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 ha. Young Master Shura's life finally came to an end, accompanied by a sinister and terrifying laugh. His shadow instantly exploded into the tiniest of dust. It was also within this dust that there were 10 glowing sacred Bodhi. After young Master Shura died, they suddenly turned into light and rushed towards Yi Fei's body. What's going on? Yi Fei frowned. Seeing the sacred Bodhi rushing towards him, Yi Fei suddenly had a bad premonition. However, before he could figure out what was wrong, whoosh! As if attracted by the other sacred Bodhi, the 2 sacred Bodhi hidden in Yi Fei's beast mark suddenly turned into flowing light and instantly merged into Yi Fei's body. They directly rushed into his dantian and absorbed all the energy in his dantian in the blink of an eye. Chapter 689. Promotion to Wu Jun. Just like that, Yi Fei could only watch as the 12 sacred Bodhi rushed into his body at the same time. They were like 12 suns, shining brightly in his dantian. The light was very peaceful. Yi Fei guessed that it was probably the light of Buddha. However, this light was very harmonious with the power of Asura, reaching a strange balance. In this balance, Yi Fei was surprised to find that the power he had lost was instantly restored. The power of Asura that he had consumed was also rapidly replenished under the effect of the 12 sacred Bodhi. Then, it surged into Yi Fei's limbs and bones. Rumble! It was clearly a human body, but at this moment, Yi Fei's body was filled with the roar of a river. Yi Fei was completely unable to control the surging power of Asura. What was even more frightening was that as the power of Asura increased, his blood started to burn on its own. The raging flames of blood and qi spread out from Yi Fei's body, causing Yi Fei to look like a huge fireball standing in the sky. At the same time, the roar of a ferocious beast came from the fireball. At this moment, even the ancient beast mark on his body was affected. Layers of mysterious scales covered Yi Fei's entire body. Then, these scales turned into flowing light and countless strange runes that surged into Yi Fei's body. Boom! At this moment, the heavens and earth were furious. As if someone had done something that angered the heavens, a thick purple thunderbolt descended from the sky and blasted mercilessly at Yi Fei's body. However, before this thunderbolt landed, Yi Fei's blood and qi suddenly turned into a huge beast that looked like a dragon. It opened its mouth and swallowed the thunderbolt in one gulp. Then, it sank back into Yi Fei's body. This scene scared Yi Fei half to death. That seemed like a heavenly punishment. Damn, I didn't do anything bad. Why did I attract heavenly punishment? Could this be the curse of blood Azura? Yi Fei had never expected that the 12 sacred Bodhi rushing into his dantian at the same time would cause such a terrifying thing. This blood Azura was too shameless. Even before his death, he still wanted to trick him. Helpless, Yi Fei could only wait for the 12 sacred Bodhi in his body to completely merge. At the same time, he was a little worried that another thunderbolt would descend from the sky. On the ground, countless cultivators were staring at Yi Fei, who was in the midst of his breakthrough, dumbfounded. Northern Region Sage King Yi Fei was breaking through to the martial saint realm. As expected of a person abandoned by the heavens. He has only stepped into the realm of martial lords, yet Yi Fei has actually attracted divine punishment. Fu Renjie and Lin Tianjiao both had lingering fears. They had also broken through to the titled Wu Jun. However, the commotion caused by their breakthrough was not even 1,000th of the commotion caused by Yi Fei. This was also something that people who had been abandoned by the heavens felt the most helpless about. The higher one's cultivation level, the greater the chance of suffering heavenly punishment. If it weren't for the fact that Yi Fei had already obtained the complete annihilation sword and absorbed the Xian Huang Qi to change his fate, that heavenly punishment might have already killed him. Usually, it would take a long time to break through to the titled Wu Jun. It was even rarer for someone like Yi Fei to start breaking through right after the battle. After Fu Renjie and the others recovered from their shock, they immediately retracted their gazes and looked at the Blood Demon Sect's army. Following young Lord Azura's death, the Blood Demon Sect's army was in chaos. Countless evil devils fled in all directions in fear, wanting to leave the battlefield. Of course, there were also the hardcore blood-robed martial kings of the Blood Demon Sect, who were provoked by young Lord Azura's death. They roared and formed a dense mass of dark shadows. They rushed into the sky, wanting to fight Yi Fei to the death. Stop them. Also, send my order. Everyone, attack. Kill the remaining members of the Blood Demon Sect. The Lord of the Northern Wilderness and the Lord of Beichuan had waited for a long time. Finally, they saw the light of victory. Of course, they would not let go of this opportunity. Sword Maniac Elder did not take action because he was worried that Yi Fei's breakthrough would be affected. The other titled Wu Jun and the 5 million soldiers all roared and charged toward the chaotic army of the Blood Demon Sect. Due to young Lord Azura's death, apart from the blood-robed martial kings of the Blood Demon Sect who were still fighting back crazily, the rest of the evil devils were in disarray. They only cared about running for their lives. Some evil devils even waved their knives at their companions in order to run faster. Sha Wang and Shen Tuming had been stabbed in the back by a few demons while they were running for their lives. They had died unwillingly on the battlefield. With their deaths, the chaotic bandits were even less of a match for the Alliance. Soon, the tens of thousands of bandits that had escaped from the desert were all killed by the Alliance. Miraculously, the threat of the bandits in the north was resolved. As for the other evil devils, they either took advantage of the chaos to run away and continue to hide, or they were killed or captured. The 1 million soldiers of the Blood Demon Sect were wiped out in just one day. Only the tens of thousands of blood-robed martial kings, the core of the Blood Demon Sect, were still roaring. They would rather die than surrender. Some of them even tried to detonate themselves and drag others down with them. With no other choice, the Alliance's Wu Jun could only join hands and kill all of the blood-robed martial kings that were controlled by the Blood Demon Sect. It was worth mentioning that when the evil devils were running away, the two brothers, Bai Tianyun and Bai Tiancheng, were actually extremely loyal to young Lord Azura. Not only did they not run away, they even died along with the tens of thousands of blood-robed martial kings. This made Zhu Jin and Beigong Chun sigh. After that, other than the Alliance's army that continued to pursue the remnants of the Blood Demon sect, all the young martial kings and the titled Wu Jun remained on the battlefield. They raised their heads and looked at the sky, preparing to see Yi Fei step into the 12th level of the martial saint realm. It was also at this time that Yi Fei finally used all his strength to completely fuse the 12 sacred Bodhi pearls within his body together. Following the fusion of the sacred Bodhi pearls, Yi Fei's breakthrough to Wu Jun was imminent. The heavens and earth were enraged once again. Thunder and lightning vaguely appeared in the void. However, as if they were wary of something, the thunder and lightning did not descend. The power of Azura within Yi Fei's body had finally accumulated to an extreme level. At this time, he could clearly feel that the martial barrier that he had been unable to break through was starting to loosen. As long as he could break through the shackles of his fleshly body in one go, even if he was a person abandoned by the heavens, he could still step into the 12th level of the martial saint realm and pursue a stronger martial Tao. No, Yi Fei, you can't break through. You have forgotten young Lord Azura's curse. If you break through now, you will definitely die. Suddenly, an anxious voice resounded in Yi Fei's mind. Hearing this voice, Yi Fei was clearly stunned. He shook his head and said, "Curses are illusory. I can't give up on breaking through just because of a dead person's curse, can I?" Yi Fei, don't be silly. Don't forget that you are a person abandoned by the heavens. How can you step into the 12th level of the martial saint realm so easily? Have you forgotten that those 10 sacred Bodhi pearls were given to you by young Lord Azura on purpose? Do you think he would be so kind? Once you break through, you will immediately self-detonate and die. But Yi Fei was just about to speak. The voice in his mind interrupted him. There's nothing to worry about. Yi Fei, you have been tricked. Young Lord Azura is actually not dead. If you don't believe me, open your eyes and look. They have already used their devilish arts to regain control over your friends and family. Whoosh. Hearing this voice, Yi Fei subconsciously opened his eyes and looked towards the ground. A trace of shock flashed across his face. He saw countless young lords of Azura standing around him. He was currently hiding in the crowd. Traces of blood silently merged into the bodies of Jing Wushou, the sword maniac elder, Fu Renjie, Lin Tianjiao, and the others. However, they were actually unable to detect it. Chapter 690. Bedevilment. Confused by the voice, Yi Fei couldn't tell whether those young masters of the Ashura clan were real or not. He felt that the young master of the Ashura clan was hiding in the crowd, sneering at him and waiting for an opportunity to take control of someone's body so that he could continue to cause trouble. What should I do? Yi Fei continued to ask the voice in his heart. He didn't know why, but he had a strong sense of trust towards this voice. He felt that everything it said was right. Ha ha ha, what else can you do? Kill him, of course. If you don't kill him, he will cause endless trouble. Only by killing the young master of the Ashura clan can you reach the titled Wu Jun, the voice sneered. A red glow rose in Yi Fei's eyes. That's right. I have to kill the young master of the Ashura clan. Only by killing him can he stop hurting my friends and family. Kill him. The red glow in his eyes gradually turned as red as blood. Then, the burning flames on Yi Fei's body turned pitch black, filled with an eerie air. He opened his eyes and stared coldly at everyone on the ground. In Yi Fei's eyes, all of them seemed to be the young master of the Ashura clan. They could trigger the strongest killing intent in Yi Fei's heart. What should I do? There are so many young masters of the Ashura clan. Which one is the real one? Who should I kill to kill him? Yi Fei hesitated. Don't hesitate. They are all young masters of the Ashura clan. Kill them all and you will become the titled Wu Jun. You will become the most powerful chosen warrior in the northern region. The voice continued. Kill them all. Yi Fei's doubt gradually turned into determination. Yes, kill them all. Kill them all. Kill them all. When we Asuras do things, we should kill endlessly. Kill until the heavens and earth are turned upside down, until rivers of blood flow. The voice in Xiao Chen's heart was almost roaring. He wished he could replace Yi Fei and kill all the people below. Do I really have to kill them all? Yi Fei was still hesitating. He was struggling unconsciously, trying to get rid of the temptation of the voice. Yes, kill them all. Kill them all. Kill every living thing you see. The voice in his heart suddenly became agitated, falling into some kind of fanaticism. This fanaticism completely destroyed the hesitation in Yi Fei's heart. His gaze became resolute as the black flames on his body continued to expand. Yes, I want to kill them. I want to kill them all. Yi Fei roared in his heart. Under the gazes of the crowd, the blood-red flames in the sky had already turned completely pitch black, emitting a sinister and evil aura. Many young martial kings did not understand what was going on. They wondered, what's going on? The aura of the northern region Saint King seems to have changed. Is he an evil demon? Evil demon. Fu Renjie and Lin Tianjiao's expressions changed at the same time. Not good. Yi Fei has actually turned into a demon. Once he does, our entire northern region will be destroyed. The Northern Wilderness ruler and Northern Chuan ruler were the first to realize that something was wrong with Yi Fei. Bedeviled, Brother Fei is actually bedeviled. Luo Shi could not believe it. In order to save him, Yi Fei was even willing to give up his life. Now Yi Fei had turned into a demon. It's all my fault. Luo Shi shed tears. If he could choose, he would rather die in place of Yi Fei. Saint Lord, what should we do to help Yi Fei? Jing Wushou and the others all looked anxiously at Sword Maniac Elder. But at this moment, Sword Maniac Elder looked up at the sky and sighed. No one can help Yi Fei. Once he turns into a demon, Yi Fei will lose his humanity and become a complete murderous demon. He will also become more evil than the Shura young master. The Northern Wilderness ruler sighed. Sigh, this is unexpected. Our northern region finally has a holy king, but now he has turned into a demon. Is there really no chance for our northern region to rise again? The Northern Wilderness ruler was also extremely regretful. As for the other titled battle pet warriors, Wu Jun's expressions changed drastically when they heard that Yi Fei was about to turn into a demon. They all shouted, "My lords, it's a pity that Yi Fei has turned into a demon. But for the sake of the stability of the northern region, we must kill Yi Fei before he completely turns into a demon. Yes, we must kill Yi Fei as soon as possible. Otherwise, he will turn from a holy king into a holy demon. Most importantly, none of us will be a match for him." The Chen family's patriarch also stepped forward. The words of the titled martial lords shocked all the young martial kings, but no one raised any objections. Even the Sword Maniac Elder had a rare moment of silence. It wasn't that they didn't want to save Yi Fei, but once Yi Fei turned into a demon, he would completely become a murderous demon. If they didn't kill Yi Fei before Yi Fei completely turned into a demon, then the northern region would be completely destroyed by Yi Fei, even if it wasn't destroyed by the Blood Demon sect. Kill him. We must stop Yi Fei from turning into a demon. Wu Jun, who was already anxious, rushed toward Yi Fei with fear on his face, trying to seize the opportunity to kill Yi Fei. Then, the two lords, the other titled battle pet warriors, and even Sword Maniac Elder gradually walked into the sky with grief on their faces. Kill him quickly. They are coming to kill you. If you don't kill them all, they will kill you. Do you want Xiao Qiao to die with you? The voice in Yi Fei's mind kept roaring as he sensed the killing intent around him. In order to lure Yi Fei completely into a demon, this voice even involved Xiao Qiao. This made Yi Fei's heart skip a beat. Out of instinct, he looked into the space of the beast mark. Xiao Qiao was still sleeping in the space. She had consumed too much energy to help Yi Fei open the spiritual eye of heaven and earth. However, even though she was sleeping, when Xiao Chao sensed that Yi Fei had entered the space of the beast mark with a very annoying aura, Xiao Chao still breathed out a mouthful of spirit energy and blew it toward Yi Fei. It was as if she wanted to blow away the annoying aura on Yi Fei's body. Then, Xiao Chao tucked in the little spiritual medicine blanket that covered her body and went back to sleep. She didn't know that her breath had a huge impact on the inner demon. Then, he heard a boom. The airflow that Xiao Chao blew out directly turned into a rainbow-colored spiritual wind. Yi Fei's whole body shivered as he was blown away. Then, he was surprised to find that a ball of twisted black gas seemed to have been blown out from his heart. It was like smoke that was blown away. Damn it, I was so close to being able to lure him into a demon. This damned Ganoderma grass, she can actually harm our inner demon while sleeping. Yi Fei, just you wait. We will meet again. One day, I will make you fall into a demon. With endless anger and grievance, the inner demon angrily turned into black smoke and completely disappeared from Yi Fei's heart. At this time, Yi Fei finally woke up. He was actually bewitched by the inner demon and almost turned into a murderous demon. Damn, a person abandoned by the heavens is really unlucky. Yi Fei was incomparably depressed. He knew that this was another side effect of being abandoned by the heavens. Of course, what Yi Fei didn't know was that before he broke through to Wu Jun, he had coincidentally collected the Annihilation Sword and obtained the heaven and earth's dark yellow qi stolen from it. If he hadn't changed his fate, he would have been struck to death by the heavens even if he hadn't been tempted by the inner demon. It was also this heaven and earth's fate that alarmed Xiao Chao and allowed Xiao Chao to breathe out the rainbow-colored spiritual wind to help Yi Fei in her sleep. Chapter 691. Heaven-defying Saint Yi Fei understood what was going on. Those titled battle pet warriors must be afraid that he would lose his life once he turned into a demon, so they wanted to kill him together. Yi Fei inwardly exclaimed that he was lucky. Luckily, he woke up quickly enough. Otherwise, he would have died too unjustly. Yi Fei did not blame the martial lords. After all, once he became a demon, he could be considered to have died. It was pardonable for the martial lords to want to kill him. I have to hurry up and reach the 12th level of the martial saint realm. Otherwise, I won't be able to stop the demon without Xiao Chao. Boom! The bloody light in Yi Fei's eyes disappeared. As his mind moved, the 12 Saint Bodhi pearls in his body started to shine. Yi Fei's entire body began to emit an incomparably holy light. This was the light of the Saint Bodhi, and also the light of the Asura power. Under the limitless light, the qi and blood in Yi Fei's body turned into flames and started to burn fiercely. Wu Jun, who was approaching Yi Fei, was puzzled. Could it be that our eyes were playing tricks on us? Isn't there no way to save someone who has fallen into a demonic state other than killing them? Yi Fei actually managed to escape from the demonic state? The Northern Wilderness Heavenly King and Beichuan Heavenly King were both shocked. For others, once they turn into a demon, they will be doomed eternally. But for Yi Fei, turning into a demon is just the first step of his many trials. He still has a long way to go. The Sword Maniac Elder's tense face revealed a slight smile. Suddenly, he said something that many martial lords did not understand. That made the Lord of the Northern Wilderness and the Lord of the Northern Wilderness and Beichuan even more afraid of Sword Maniac Elder. Sword Maniac Elder was only at the first level of the martial saint realm. However, the Sword Maniac Elder was also different from the other titled martial lords. His life was ordinary. The reason he was able to reach where he was today was all because of his infatuation with the sword. He forcibly went from ordinary to ordinary, from ordinary to extraordinary. That in itself was a legend. Of course, Yi Fei, who was in the process of breaking through, was a legend among legends. Because in the short time when Wu Jun and the others were hesitating, sensing that Yi Fei was about to break through, the heavens and earth were once again enraged. The rolling purple lightning formed a thundercloud in the sky and mercilessly struck towards Yi Fei. How was this a heavenly punishment? This was simply a heavenly tribulation that only appeared in legends. The person abandoned by the heavens is indeed not tolerated by the heavens. He just broke through to Wu Jun, and this Yi Fei actually attracted a heavenly tribulation. I wonder if Yi Fei can block it? Another titled battle pet warrior, Wu Jun, was worried. F***ck, this isn't a heavenly punishment, but a heavenly tribulation. What have I, Yi Fei, done wrong? Why are you doing this to me? For the first time, Yi Fei felt that the identity of the person abandoned by the heavens was a tricky one. No wonder the ancient holy families would give up when they saw the person abandoned by the heavens. However, so what if he was abandoned by the heavens? The heaven-abandoning martial emperor was also abandoned by the heavens. Didn't he still become a martial emperor? Since he could, why can't I? Yi Fei said to himself. Then, he raised his head and looked at the thundercloud. He didn't try to dodge. After all, there was no point in dodging. Since I cannot avoid it, I will face it with courage. Battle demon golden body. The blazing blood flames suddenly turned into resplendent golden flames. Yi Fei took a step forward and soared into the sky, brazenly crashing into the tribulation clouds in the sky. Within the tribulation clouds there was also a huge explosion. The sky was filled with chaotic lightning. Within the lightning, Yi Fei's body was covered in golden light. He was bathed in lightning as he ferociously slammed his hand towards the sky. Boom, crack. The sky collapsed, and the tribulation clouds were destroyed. Clear skies reappeared between heaven and earth. Many of the captured evil spirits were scared out of their wits. Damn, he smashed the thundercloud with his physical body. Lin Tianjiao swallowed his saliva. His physical body was also terrifying. But if he were in Yi Fei's shoes, he wouldn't be as bold as Yi Fei. He wouldn't even dare to smash the heavenly tribulation with his physical body. That was a heavenly tribulation. It hadn't appeared in the Tianwu continent since the ancient times. Lin Tianjiao was not the only one who was speechless. All the young martial kings who saw this were speechless. However, no one was jealous of Yi Fei. They only raised their heads and looked at the figure in the sky with endless admiration. Then, many martial kings were so scared that they couldn't help but scream. Motherf***ker, this Yi Fei is still a human. Lin Tianjiao was the first to scream again. He took a few steps back. He felt that his pride had been shattered in front of Yi Fei. Fu Renjie and Chen Mengyao were also looking at Yi Fei in the sky in shock. After the heavenly tribulation, Yi Fei had successfully reached the 12th level of the martial saint realm. Behind him, 12 rays of light appeared. The 12 rays of light were like 12 miniature suns. They lit up the sky and covered the earth. In a trance, many people seemed to see 12 tall figures standing behind Yi Fei. They were either lowering their heads, pondering, angry, or happy. They had different expressions and postures. The only thing they had in common was their aura and their souls. Roar! In the end, the 12 figures looked up at the sky at the same time like ancient demonic gods and let out angry roars. Boom, boom, boom. At that moment, the sky and earth ceased to exist. People could only see 12 golden pillars of light as thick as buckets shooting into the sky. They also formed a strange position, surrounding and protecting Yi Fei in the center. All of the titled martial lords present were dumbfounded by the sight. 12 primordial spirits. Oh my god, Yi Fei has condensed 12 primordial spirits in one go. This is so terrifying. The Sage King of the North region is amazing. No wonder he could trigger the heavenly tribulation when he broke through to Wu Jun. He has 12 primordial spirits. What Sage King of the North region? I think he is a heaven-defying sage. Have any of you seen Wu Jun, who has 12 primordial spirits? No one answered. As soon as Yi Fei's 12 primordial spirits appeared, Wu Jun was completely stunned. When he thought about how they had wanted to take advantage of Yi Fei's demonic state to get rid of him, the lord of the northern wilderness country and the lord of the Beichuan country were so scared that their backs were wet with cold sweat. It was not rare for warriors to have multiple primordial spirits in ancient times. However, it was extremely rare in the current Tianwu continent. At least, they could not find a Wu Jun who had a single primordial spirit in the north region. Perhaps only the Zhongzhou country could have such a genius. However, even the top geniuses in the Zhongzhou country could only condense 2 or 3 primordial spirits, which was already considered heaven-defying. Yi Fei had condensed 12 primordial spirits in one go. If news of this spread to the Zhongzhou country, many geniuses would be scared to death. Abandoned by the heavens, abandoned by the heavens. Bastard, Yi Fei is not abandoned by the heavens. He is 10,000 times luckier than us old guys. After the lord of the northern wilderness country recovered from his fear, he was filled with jealousy and depression. Sigh, I have to admit it. 12 primordial spirit. He can achieve such a heaven-defying feat. Yi Fei is a heaven-defying sage. We old guys can't suppress him anymore. The lord of the Beichuan countryside. When the other Wu Juns heard this, they nodded and secretly communicated with each other. Yi Fei is both heaven-defying and abnormal. We can only make friends with him. We can't provoke him. Otherwise, if he is unhappy, he can destroy us with his 12 primordial spirit. Who in the north region could stop a heaven-defying sage like Yi Fei? Other than the geniuses in the Zhongzhou country, no one could stop him. Sigh. Chapter 692. Confidence. 12 Primordial Spirit. I've actually condensed 12 primordial spirits and officially stepped onto the path of a martial saint? In the sky, Yi Fei looked at the 12 balls of light revolving around his body. While he was happy, he couldn't help but feel shocked. It was very difficult to break through to the 12th level of the martial saint realm in the northern region. One had to condense 12 primordial spirits at the first level of the 12th level of the martial saint realm. The titled Wu Jun. Yi Fei didn't know if the central region's geniuses could do it. However, Yi Fei had never heard of anyone possessing so many primordial spirits in the northern region. Even Zhao Yu, who cultivated the unmoved emperor's supreme unmoved Tao, had only condensed 2 primordial spirits. This Saint Bodhi is indeed terrifying. Most importantly, this thing clearly carries the aura of Buddha. How can it merge with the power of Azura so perfectly? Yi Fei couldn't figure it out, but he didn't bother to think about it. Yi Fei only knew that he had struck gold this time. After stepping into the martial saint realm, the quality of his dantian was no longer important. The most important thing was the primordial spirit. In other words, the primordial spirit was a kind of evolution of a martial artist's dantian. Not only could it contain more true essence, but it was also of a higher quality. At the same time, the strength of the primordial spirit largely determined a martial artist's battle prowess. The stronger the primordial spirit, the more true essence stored in the martial artist's body. For example, if the titled Wu Jun's primordial spirit was twice as strong, the true essence stored in the martial artist's body would also be twice as strong. Naturally, the martial artist's battle prowess would also be greatly increased. Moreover, after reaching the 12th level of the martial saint realm, the martial arts a martial artist could perform would also be greatly strengthened. Correspondingly, the true essence consumed would also be incomparably huge. Take the sky extinguishing sword for example. Such a sword art of the martial emperor would consume a terrifying amount of true essence to perform at full strength. If an ordinary titled Wu Jun were to perform it, he might only be able to use it once before the true essence in his body would be depleted, and he would be unable to continue fighting. But if he had 12 primordial spirits, it would be different. Yi Fei could unleash 12 complete annihilation swords in one go. Just the thought of its power was terrifying. At the same time, As Yi Fei's cultivation level increased in the future, the energy stored in his primordial spirit would become even more abundant. The number of times he could use powerful martial arts would also continue to increase. In this state, why do I feel like I have an infinite amount of skills in the online games of the future? Indeed, having multiple primordial spirits is the way to go. In his mind, Yi Fei sorted out the benefits that the 12 primordial spirits could bring. He was also extremely shocked. Only then did he realize how terrifying and primordial soul realm ancient martial art practitioner was. With 12 primordial spirits, Yi Fei finally had the confidence to face the geniuses of the Central Continent and DZ. Although I don't have the Emperor aura, I have 12 primordial spirit. Perhaps this is where my advantage lies in facing those Central Plains geniuses. Realization flashed through Yi Fei's mind. Now that the heavenly tribulation had passed, he began to slowly retract the light beams of the 12 primordial spirits back into his body, and continued to consolidate his cultivation of the first stage of Wu Jun below the sky. Countless martial art practitioners were watching the process of Yi Fei stepping into the 12th level of the martial sacred realm and becoming the titled Wu Jun with complicated expressions. In particular, when they heard the other Wu Jun referring to Yi Fei as the heaven-defying Saint Monarch, the young martial kings present were in an uproar. Heaven-defying Saint Monarch? It's the first time such a Saint Monarch has appeared in the northern region, right? Of course. Have any of you seen a titled Wu Jun with 12 primordial spirits before? Apart from those geniuses with the ancient physique, only the Central Continent would have a chance of contending against Yi Fei. The young martial kings exclaimed. They had witnessed with their own eyes how Yi Fei had gone from an ordinary martial art practitioner to his current achievements. The heaven-defying Wu Jun. He was already the strongest existence in the northern region. Damn it. I didn't expect him to leave me so far behind in just a few years. Was my pride in the past wrong? Lin Tianjiao looked at Yi Fei in the sky. He would be lying if he said that he wasn't jealous. However, he was more frustrated than jealous. After all, 3 years ago, Lin Tianjiao didn't take Yi Fei seriously at all. Now, he was left far behind by Yi Fei. Lin Tianjiao, Fu Renjie, and Chen Mengyao all felt the enormous pressure in the sky. We are the 5 heavens primordial spirit. Not counting the dead Song Yu, are the 3 of us going to look up to Yi Fei and watch him leave us further and further behind? Lin Tianjiao was unwilling to accept this. He was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Fu Renjie's expression turned solemn as well. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. Then, his gaze became firm as he said, Yi Fei, from now on, you are the goal that I, Fu Renjie, will chase after. One day, I will definitely surpass you and reclaim the title of the strongest genius. Lin Tianjiao, Fu Renjie, if we continue to stay in the northern region, we definitely won't have a chance to catch up with Yi Fei. Why don't we find some time to go to the central region? That is the real stage. There will definitely be geniuses more powerful than Yi Fei there, Chen Mengyao suddenly suggested. Fu Renjie and Lin Tianjiao's eyes suddenly lit up. They nodded and said, Okay, let's go to the central region together. Hey, Fu Renjie, are you going to the central region too? It turned out that after being stimulated by Yi Fei, not only did Fu Renjie and the other 2 want to leave the northern region and go to the central region to improve their strength, but many of the young martial kings present were also thinking about this problem. Due to the impact of the ancient war, the resources of the northern region had already been exhausted and the talents had withered. If they stayed in the northern region, they could only break through to the titled Wu Jun at most. However, if they went to the central region, they could break through to a higher realm and obtain stronger battle strength. After all, there were 3 levels in the martial sage realm. Titled Wu Jun, Earthly Omnipotence, and Omnipotent Sage. Since they could break through to a higher realm, who would be willing to stay as a titled Wu Jun for the rest of their lives? You should go out and try your luck while you are still young. Hearing that many young martial kings wanted to leave the northern region, as the elders, many titled Wu Jun, not only did they not stop them, they even encouraged them. After sitting cross-legged in the sky for 12 days, only then did Yi Fei completely consolidate his cultivation as a first-rank titled martial lord. He couldn't help revealing a bitter smile on his face. Alas, the 12 primordial spirits are indeed powerful, but the time it takes to cultivate is also 12 times longer than others. If I had known, I would have condensed fewer primordial spirit. Yi Fei stood up in the sky with a depressed expression. Hearing that Yi Fei was still complaining after condensing 12 primordial spirits, the titled Wu Jun were so angry that they almost vomited blood. Give us some primordial spirits if you dare. Many young martial kings were roaring in their hearts. Yi Fei, can you give me some advice about your experience in breaking through to the titled Wu Jun? Chen Mengyao suddenly flew over nervously and asked Yi Fei for advice with a slightly red face. The other young martial kings' eyes lit up and they all looked at Yi Fei expectantly. Yi Fei was now a legend in the northern region. They also wanted to know about Yi Fei's experience in breaking through. Chapter 693. Yi Fei preaches. Chen Mengyao, you want me to give you some pointers? Yi Fei was a little surprised. Chen Mengyao had always been a cold goddess. Now, such a goddess actually lowered herself and asked for his pointers? Yi Fei, I know this is very sudden, but I'm also one of the geniuses. I can't just stay where I am when all of you have reached the 12th level of the martial saint realm and become the titled Wu Jun. I'm begging you, okay? Chen Mengyao did not give Yi Fei a chance to refuse. A crafty look flashed in her eyes. She was actually acting coquettishly. This caused many young martial kings to look at Yi Fei with red eyes of envy. Damn it, I've also just reached the titled Wu Jun. I have experience too. Chen Mengyao, you can ask me for pointers. Lin Tianjiao roared in his heart again. Yi Fei felt a little awkward. Although he had officially reached the 12th level of the martial saint realm, he didn't feel complacent and looked down on all the martial artists in the world. After Na Chai's advice, Yi Fei was also very clear that his strength was invincible in the northern region, but in the central region, he could only be regarded as below average. Chen Mengyao, there's no need for pointers. We're all martial artists. We can exchange pointers with each other. Yi Fei shook his head and smiled. He didn't reject Chen Mengyao's request, but he used a tactful way. At least, Yi Fei felt that he wasn't qualified to give pointers to others with his current strength. However, they could exchange pointers with each other. Therefore, Yi Fei sat cross-legged in the sky again and started to explain his understanding of reaching the 12th level of the martial saint realm and becoming the titled Wu Jun. Yi Fei even explained how he fell into the dark side and how he was tempted by the heart devil. However, he didn't mention the existence of Xiao Chao. Even so, the young martial kings present listened with great interest. Even if they couldn't understand what Yi Fei was saying now, they would remember every word he said in their mind. They would comprehend it when they broke through to the Wu Jun level in the future, or leave it to their juniors. When Yi Fei preached the Tao, not only the young martial kings, but also the millions of warriors on the battlefield, and even the captive evil spirits, after hearing Yi Fei's preaching, many people became thoughtful, as if they had comprehended something. When they heard Yi Fei explain the various comprehensions he had when breaking through to the martial lord realm, even many titled martial lords, including the Beichuan country's ruler and the Beichuan country's ruler, looked at Yi Fei with incomparable astonishment. They were all experienced people, and had stayed in the martial lord realm for dozens of years, or even hundreds of years. Naturally, they could tell that Yi Fei's explanation held nothing back. He very completely told everyone how to comprehend, how to make breakthroughs, how to fight against one's heart demons, and how to consolidate one's cultivation. Many of these were secrets between titled battle pet warriors and Wu Jun. Even if they were close to each other, they wouldn't tell them everything. Therefore, when they heard Yi Fei's unreserved explanation in the sky, they were shocked. Because this was no longer an exchange of martial arts. Yi Fei was preaching to millions of warriors at the same time. Alas, I really don't know what to say about this guy. He imparted such precious experience without holding back. The two lords were speechless. Maybe this is the reason why Yi Fei can become a heaven-defying great saint, while we can only become ordinary titled battle pet warriors. Wu Jun. Sword Maniac Saint Lord smiled with relief. More titled battle pet warriors. Wu Jun heard Sword Maniac Saint Lord's words, nodded subconsciously with shame on their faces. Ha ha ha, I understand now. I understand now. This is the holy way. This is Wu Jun's way. Suddenly, the West Heavenly King stood up from the crowd and danced with joy. He laughed ecstatically. The Northern Heavenly King beside him also stood up excitedly with tears running down his face. The two Heavenly Kings didn't say much. They rushed out of the crowd as fast as they could. They rushed back to the border city and started their closed-door cultivation immediately. When they left, many warriors could clearly see the burning qi and blood in their bodies. Many senior martial kings who were also stuck in the invincible realm and couldn't break through were so envious that their eyes turned red. No one had expected that just by listening to Yi Fei's preaching, the two heavenly kings would get the opportunity to step into the 12th level of the martial saint realm and become titled battle pet warriors. Wu Jun. Chapter 694. Journey to the Central Region. While the three countries of the north were busy annexing the northern plains, more and more older generation martial kings stepped into the 12th level of the martial saint realm under Yi Fei's guidance and became titled Wu Jun. Things were similar to what Zhao Xing expected. These older generation martial kings were very grateful to the North Region Saint Monarch who selflessly contributed his experience to help them break through. The first thing they did after breaking through was to rush to the North Sea Pass and thank Yi Fei personally. The family Yi had no choice but to give the highest treatment to welcome these Wu Juns. Of course, only Yi Jian, Yi Bufan, Zhao Xing, and the others showed up. Yi Fei didn't show up. In the past few months, Yi Fei had been helping Luo Shi make a breakthrough into titled martial lord. Speaking of which, Luo Shi was quite lucky and profited from a disaster. With young Master Azura controlling Luo Shi's body, not only did he forcibly raise Luo Shi's cultivation to the level of an invincible holy king, he was only a step away from becoming a titled martial lord. More importantly, while raising Luo Shi's cultivation level, young Lord Shura had also raised Luo Shi's combat power. Although Luo Shi's combat power had dropped from 1 million to 200,000 after Yi Fei had absorbed the 12 Saint Bodhi, Luo Shi's combat power had dropped from 1 million to 200,000. However, in the North region where martial arts were weak, Luo Shi's current combat power was comparable to the first level titled Wu Jun. However, what puzzled Yi Fei was that Luo Shi still didn't show any signs of entering the 12th level of the martial saint realm. This made Yi Fei very confused. Could it be because Luo Shi came in contact with the Saint Bodhi? It seems that I have to think of a way to remove the influence of the Saint Bodhi in Luo Shi's body. Yi Fei thought to himself. Therefore, Yi Fei did his best to help Luo Shi remove the influence of the Saint Bodhi. This made Jing Wushou, Qin Bing, Long Gang, and the others very envious. Luo Shi had only been captured once, and he had already surpassed them to become the 5th strongest prodigy in the North region. This caused Long Gang and the others to be envious of Luo Shi's luck. They were also secretly angry that the Azura young master had not captured them back then. Not long after the northern domain regained its peace, Fu Renjie, Lin Tianjiao, and Chen Mengyao left their respective countries. The three of them came to the Beihai Sea to greet Yi Fei, and also to invite Yi Fei. After learning that Yi Fei would do his best to help Luo Shi stabilize his realm, The three of them had no choice but to go to sea alone. They were ready to cross the vast sea and enter the flourishing age of martial arts like the Central Plains. Motivated by the three of them, as well as Yi Fei becoming a heaven-defying saint monarch, many more young martial kings arranged their family affairs and formed large fleets to sail to the Central Prefecture. Of course, most of these young martial kings who left either died in the dangerous chaotic ocean or died in the central continent, where geniuses were everywhere and martial arts flourished. Some died in battle, and some became nameless. They could only become ordinary people and live in remote corners. Only a small number of people, with great perseverance, managed to break through all obstacles and step into the supreme martial arts. In the end, they successfully returned to the North region. Among these martial artists who returned successfully, even the weakest had reached the peak of the 12th level of the martial saint realm, which was the level of the heavenly grandmaster great sage. A small number of them even broke through the martial emperor realm. Among them, Fu Renjie's achievement was the highest. He actually became the second martial emperor of the North region after the Wang Qing emperor. It was worth mentioning that Zhu Zhen and Beigong Chun did not leave the North region and went to the Central Prefecture. With the support of the two heavenly kings and Yi Fei's support, Zhu Zhen became the new king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom and married Beigong Yu. On the other hand, Beigong Chun successfully defeated Qin Bing on a dark and windy night. The two of them could only stay in the North region and inherit the Northern Heavenly King's mansion. On the other hand, Jing Wushou, the 10th prince, Shi Feng, Long Gang and the others went to the Central Prefecture together and took the risk. Lin Sun and Yang Xiao chose to stay and continue to cultivate in the Taishan sacred ground. As a large number of young martial kings left, Yi Fei still did not leave. The outside world was speculating and the pressure on Luo Shi kept increasing. "Brother Fei, why don't you leave me alone and go to the Central Prefecture? That's your world." Luo Shi failed to break through again and persuaded Yi Fei in a depressed manner. Hearing this, Yi Fei's face darkened and he said in a low voice, "Why should I leave? We agreed that we would go out and train together. How can I leave my brother behind?" Luo Shi was touched and smiled bitterly, but he still shook his head resolutely and said, "Brother Fei, it's because I'm your brother that I can't continue to be a burden to you. Moreover, I have a vague feeling that my failure to break through might have something to do with the spiritual eagle. After all, the spiritual eagle and I are one. Now that the spiritual eagle is seriously injured and turned into a spiritual egg, as long as it's not injured, I might not be able to break through." "Luo Shi, are you sure that you can't break through because of the spiritual eagle and not because of the holy Bodhi?" Yi Fei's expression was very serious. Luo Shi nodded seriously and said with certainty, "I'm sure. When I was controlled by young Master Azura, I vaguely heard him say that the holy Bodhi only affects people with the power of Azura. It has no effect on ordinary warriors like us. Therefore, Brother Fei, you should leave. You've done so much for me. I can't delay your cultivation any longer." Luo Shi's expression was very serious. Although it was a pity that he couldn't leave with Yi Fei, he couldn't delay Yi Fei's cultivation either. "Well, okay." Sensing Luo Shi's determination, Yi Fei knew that if he refused Luo Shi, he would be letting down Luo Shi's painstaking efforts. "Luo Shi, I can leave, but you must promise me that once you break through to the Wu Jun level in 3 years, you will come to the Central Plains to find me. By then, we will conquer the world together." Yi Fei reminded him one last time. He estimated that 3 years was enough time for the spiritual eagle to recover and help Luo Shi break through to the Wu Jun level. Seeing that Yi Fei was finally willing to leave, Luo Shi smiled from the bottom of his heart. He grabbed Yi Fei's arm and said, "Yi Fei, don't worry. It doesn't matter if it's 3 years or 10 years. As long as you don't despise me as your brother, I, Luo Shi, am willing to stand behind you forever." "Brother Fei, take care." Luo Shi squeezed Yi Fei's arm and walked back without looking back. He began the most arduous closed-door cultivation. Since Yi Fei had asked him to become the Wu Jun level in 3 years, Luo Shi would risk his life to not disappoint Yi Fei. "Brother, take care." Yi Fei didn't say much to Luo Shi, who had begun his closed-door cultivation. Since he had decided to leave, he wouldn't hesitate for too long. After all, he could see Luo Shi again in 3 years. If so, he might as well take advantage of the 3 years to gain a firm foothold in the Central Plains. Central Plains, here I come. Yi Fei didn't disturb the others in the Sword Mansion. He left a letter and said goodbye to Lil He, who was playing in the pond. Then Yi Fei flew up and left the Beihai Pass. Chapter 695. Seeing Shangluo again, although the Blood Demon sect has been completely destroyed, there's still a huge threat in the North region. It's the stone door of the Great Emperor's tomb. Every time Yi Fei thought of the stone door, he would feel extremely depressed. He didn't know what was behind the stone door, but Yi Fei knew that once the thing behind the stone door came out, it would be a complete disaster for the North region. Not to mention, before Yi Fei left, he had received a favor from the Gravekeeper Elder and bathed in the dragon chi of the Great Emperor's tomb. Yi Fei never liked to owe favors. Even if he did, he would find a way to return the favor. Before I left, the Gravekeeper Elder gave me a jade talisman. He said that if I followed the guidance of the jade talisman, I would be able to find his lost spiritual eye. Yi Fei recalled the Gravekeeper Elder's instructions before he left and took out the jade talisman. When the Blood Demon sect was wreaking havoc, he couldn't complete the Gravekeeper Elder's instructions. Now that the Blood Demon sect was destroyed, Yi Fei naturally had the time to do so. I'll go and help the Gravekeeper Elder find his lost spiritual eye now. According to the Gravekeeper Elder's instructions, Yi Fei didn't crush the jade talisman. Instead, he carefully transferred a trace of Demonic Emperor Sutra's inner yuan into the jade talisman. Soon, a red light appeared on the jade talisman. It turned into an arrow and pointed in a certain direction in the North region. Yi Fei was a little surprised. This spiritual eye master is really good. However, with this, it will save me a lot of trouble to find the spiritual eye. Whoosh! Following the guidance of the jade talisman, Yi Fei quickly rushed in the direction of the arrow. During this time, the arrow changed directions 3 times. It seemed to have malfunctioned a few times and didn't show anything. However, Yi Fei relied on his own patience and gradually figured out the exact location of the spiritual eye. The Gravekeeper Elder's lost spiritual eye is actually near the North Sea. It seems to be constantly moving? Yi Fei was a little curious. However, he didn't dare to delay. After all, the Gravekeeper Elder's spiritual eye was related to the safety of the entire North region. No matter what, Yi Fei wanted to get it back as soon as possible. Great Void Steps. Since he had determined the exact location of the spirit eye, Yi Fei naturally would not fly slowly in the sky. Instead, he directly used the Great Void Steps to rush over the sea. After chasing for about 2 or 3 days, Yi Fei soon saw a large ship sailing slowly towards the border of the northern region on the sea in the distance. Yi Fei's curiosity was piqued. There are no signs of human habitation at the edge of the northern region. It's known as the land of vicious beasts. There are all kinds of powerful vicious beasts there. Even titled battle pet warrior Wu Jun rarely goes there. Why would a ship come here? With a trace of doubt, Yi Fei continued to approach the large ship. Upon closer inspection, there was a small deserted island behind the original ship. He wondered if there was a problem with the ship or something else. It didn't dock by itself. Instead, it was pulled over by a dozen shirtless middle-aged martial kings. Their faces were dark as they shouted and pulled the ship over bit by bit. Yi Fei was even more surprised. Damn, ordering martial kings around like boatmen. When did such a person appear in the northern region? He's even more powerful than the 4 great nations. He slowly landed on the ship. Due to the size of the ship, the middle-aged martial kings who were forced to be boatmen didn't notice him. They were still shouting and pulling the ship to the deserted island. Perhaps because they were too slow, a piece of melon skin was suddenly thrown from the deck at the front of the ship. It was upside down on the head of a middle-aged martial king. The middle-aged martial king's face immediately flushed red. He had a gloomy expression on his face as if he wanted to die. When the other martial kings saw what happened to their companion, they were all shocked. They immediately used all their strength, afraid that they would suffer the same treatment. After all, they were martial kings. If this thing was also on their heads, even if it didn't hurt them, it would be too embarrassing. Yi Fei also silently sympathized with these people. They were really pitiful to be martial kings like this. "Tsk, you're still pretending to be pitiful. I'm already being extra merciful by not smacking you to death with a melon." At this moment, a beautiful girl in red was sitting on the railing at the front of the ship. She was the one who was eating the melon while teaching these martial kings a lesson. Looking at this girl, Yi Fei almost fell to the ground. No wonder these martial kings were so miserable. They were actually from the Merchant Union. And the person eating the melon at the front of the ship was actually Shangluo. After not seeing her for a few years, Shangluo still looked the same. She looked gentle and elegant, like a well-bred young lady. In fact, Shangluo was very bad and violent in her bones. It could be seen from the encounter of these martial kings. However, being surprised was one thing. Since they knew that this ship belonged to the Merchant Union, things would be much easier. "Miss Shang, long time no see." Yi Fei took the initiative to show up and greet Shangluo. This gave all the martial kings of the Merchant Union a fright. How could they not know that an outsider had boarded the ship? But before they could rush over to protect Shangluo, Shangluo had already waved her hand domineeringly. "All of you, obediently pull the ship to atone for your sins. Whoever dares to slack off, be careful that you'll be served with a melon skin." "Yes, Mississippi. We will definitely work hard to atone for our sins." Seeing another melon skin appear on their companions' heads, the martial kings of the Merchant Union all became obedient. Yi Fei was also shocked. This Shangluo was very good at controlling her subordinate. Shangluo also glanced at Yi Fei and said, "What are you looking at? Didn't you go to the central continent? Why are you secretly following my ship?" Yi Fei was shocked again. "You discovered me long ago? Who do you think taught you the void steps?" Shangluo glared at Yi Fei. Only then did Yi Fei realize how Shangluo had discovered him. It turned out that Shangluo had sensed the aura of the void step. However, when he remembered that the arrow indicated by the jade talisman was on this ship, Yi Fei hurriedly revealed his purpose of coming. "Shangluo, I'm not following you. It's just that there's something very important on this ship." "Something very important? No way, Yi Fei. Could it be that you also knew about the appearance of the spiritual pearl? Those mermaids can't be so shameless, right? We said that our Merchant Union would buy it exclusively. Not only did they sell it to these idiots, they even leaked the news." Shangluo had an angry expression. The martial kings who were pulling the ship also lowered their heads in shame and stood on the water. Yi Fei vaguely understood that these martial kings had done something wrong and were being punished. However, only Shangluo would punish a martial king to become a boatman. Yi Fei couldn't help but shake his head. "I'm not looking for the spiritual pearl. I have an old friend whose spiritual eye is on this ship. I want to take it back." "Great, that damned spiritual eye is your friend's. Who is your friend? If you have the guts, call him out. Let's see if I can hack him to death." Chapter 696. The mysterious merman. With Yi Fei's current strength, even if it was a sneak attack, he wouldn't be hit by a little girl's spirit melon skin. He turned sideways and bent his waist, dodging the black shadow. However, while Yi Fei dodged, Third Master Shang, who had rushed over after hearing the news, felt a cool sensation on his head. A piece of spirit melon skin had been placed on his head. Third Master Shang's smiling face instantly darkened. He looked at Yi Fei with a bitter expression and asked, "Young man, why did you dodge?" Realizing that he had gotten himself into trouble, Shang Luo was so scared that he quickly stuck out his tongue. He also hurriedly turned the tables and asked, "That's right, why did you hide? I know you deliberately schemed against my third uncle." "What? Luo Luo is telling the truth. Young man, how dare you set up Third Master Shang?" Third Master Shang was furious. He glared at Yi Fei as if he wanted to eat him alive. Yi Fei wanted to vomit blood. Shangluo was indeed ruthless. She was the one who had caused the trouble, yet she could still shift the blame to someone else so righteously. "Third Master Shang, please don't misunderstand. I'm here to look for the spirit eye. It's very important to me." Yi Fei's expression became serious. Third Master Shang was no longer the Mad Warrior King. He nodded at Yi Fei's words. Of course, he understood that this was Shangluo's fault. He was just unlucky to be standing behind Yi Fei. After removing the spirit melon skin from his head, Third Master Shang asked, "By the way, I heard that you destroyed the Blood Demon sect. Many young martial kings have left for Zhong province. Why haven't you left yet?" Yi Fei smiled bitterly and said, "I do want to leave, but I have been entrusted by someone to help an old man find his lost spiritual eye." That spirit eye belonged to your friend. You actually know a spirit eye master. But this spirit eye master is really unlucky. His most precious spirit eye was dug out by someone else. He even set up the Merchant Alliance." Third Master Shang was very depressed. Yi Fei couldn't help but be curious. "Third Master, what's going on? By the way, why are you still in North Sea?" Yi Fei hadn't heard any news about Shangluo for a few years. He thought that Shangluo had already returned to Zhongzhou. He was very surprised to meet them here, and now it was related to the spiritual eye. Hearing this, Shangluo's eyes widened again. She angrily said, "Isn't it because your demon emperor master is too hateful? He gave me all kinds of ingredients for the face-retaining pill, causing me to run around until my legs are broken these past few years." Shangluo was very depressed. As it turned out, the reason why she had disappeared for the past few years was not because she had left the central continent, but because she was anxious to refine the miraculous face-retaining pill. As for why Shangluo was so eager to find the materials for the face-retaining pill at such a young age, Yi Fei could also understand why he did not hesitate to waste his cultivation time and ran around outside for several years. After all, as a woman, if she could maintain the appearance of a 17-year-old, she would definitely not wait until she was 17 and a half. This was also the reason why Shangluo was so diligent. After Third Master Shang's explanation, Yi Fei realized that Shangluo was not just being diligent. In order to make the face-retaining pill reappear in the Tianwu continent, Shangluo had exploded with great enthusiasm. In 3 years, she had collected dozens of precious ingredients needed to refine the face-retaining pill. With the current scarcity of resources in the northern region, even the 4 great nations might not be able to collect all of these ingredients in 3 years. From this, it could be seen that Shangluo had exploded with astonishing enthusiasm and perseverance for the sake of the face-retaining pill. Under the spur of this perseverance, several managers of the Merchant Alliance had been forced from the realm of Martial Revered to the realm of Martial King by Shangluo. With great difficulty they had finally collected most of the ingredient. Only the last ingredient was very special. It required the deep sea spiritual pearl. Such a treasure could only be found in the deep sea and was extremely rare. The Merchant Alliance had spent a year before they coincidentally met the legendary mermen in this sea region. The mermen told the Merchant Alliance that they had the deep-sea spiritual pearl in their hands, but the Merchant Alliance had to take out a large number of spirit stones to exchange for it. With the Merchant Alliance's wealth, of course, They took out a large number of spirit stones without hesitation and bought the deep-sea spiritual pearl from the merman. However, before they could claim credit from Third Master Shang, Shanglua had discovered the flaw. The deep-sea spiritual pearl was actually fake. Not only had the mermen tricked the Merchant Alliance, they had also cheated a total of 200,000 mid-grade spirit stones. This was also the reason why Yi Fei had seen a group of martial kings working as boatmen. With the mistakes they had made, other powers would have killed them to vent their anger. Shanglua had only asked them to work as boatmen to vent their anger. This was already very kind of them. After saying all this and knowing Yi Fei's intention, Third Master Shang was not stingy. He took out the spiritual eye and said, "Young man, this is the spiritual eye. We have no use for it anyway. Since it belongs to your friend, you can have it." "Thank you, Third Master Shang." Yi Fei was delighted. He thought to himself that Third Master Shang was indeed forthright and generous. He was indeed a good man. When Yi Fei and Third Master Shang were talking, Shanglua acted out of character and actually listened quietly. She listened silently at the side. This was clearly not in line with Miss Shang's usual shrewdness. It was only when Third Master Shang took out the spiritual eye that was the fake spiritual pearl that she wanted to give to Yi Fei that she saw that Yi Fei seemed to be very interested in the spiritual eye. Only then did Shanglua's eldest sister's eyes turn into gold, sparkling brightly. Her white hand was a step ahead, reaching out as well. She grabbed and let go. Yi Fei looked on in shock. The spiritual eye that was supposed to be in his hand had turned into the spiritual melon that Shanglua often ate, and the spiritual eye was now in Shanglua's hand. Yi Fei was suddenly furious. He really wanted to beat up Shanglua for ruining his plans. "I wanted the spiritual eye. Why did you give me the spiritual melon?" "That's right, Luoluo. We have no use for this spiritual eye." Third Master Shang was also puzzled. Shang Lua looked at Third Master Shang speechlessly and said, "Third Uncle, have you forgotten what the Shang clan does for a living? We are merchants. I spent 200,000 spiritual stones to buy this spiritual eye. How could I give it away for free?" Third Master Shang slapped his forehead and said in frustration, "That's right. This spiritual eye cheated us of 200,000 spiritual stones. It's not right to give it to this young man for free." "Not right, my ass. Third Master Shang, what happened to being a hero? Didn't you say that money is nothing to you?" Yi Fei really wanted to grab Shanglua and give him a good beating. How could he forget that Third Master Shang was a generous man? Shanglua was an unscrupulous businessman. Yi Fei had no choice but to say to Shanglua, "Shanglua, this spiritual eye concerns the safety of the entire northern region. You can't take advantage of this opportunity to rob us, right?" You said it was so serious. Who knows if it's true or not?" Shanglua obviously did not believe Yi Fei. Yi Fei felt depressed. Why was it that no one believed him when he spoke the truth? However, after thinking about it, he realized that a single spiritual eye was related to the safety of the northern region. If he hadn't seen the stone door with his own eyes, Yi Fei would not have believed it. "You can't expect me to compensate you with 200,000 spiritual stones, right? I can't afford that." Yi Fei spread his hands helplessly. "Don't worry, I won't extort you. You can have the spiritual eye if you want, but you have to help me deal with those mermaid." Chapter 697. Merman Territory. Yi Fei finally realized that Shanglua had taken the spiritual eye not to extort him, but to ask him to help her deal with the group of mysterious mermen who had deceived her. He was very curious. "Don't tell me you have Master Shanglua here? You have so many martial kings under you, can't you deal with a group of mermen?" Although mermen were mysterious, most of them were not strong. To be honest, with Yi Fei's current cultivation level, he was not very interested in dealing with mermen. Master Shang suddenly sighed and shook his head with a bitter smile. "Young man, you've misunderstood Luo Luo this time. It's not that I don't want to help, but that place is very strange. Other than Luo, no one else can enter. Of course, you might be an exception." "Why am I an exception?" Yi Fei asked. "Because you're from the North region. Ever since I discovered that group of mermen, I've used all of my power to investigate thoroughly." Shanglua suddenly threw a geography book of the North region to Yi Fei. It looked very old. Yi Fei wondered where Shanglua had found it. Under Shangluo's guidance, Yi Fei flipped to the page that recorded the mermaids and mermen, and he was immediately shocked. Mermen, a species of unknown origin. 10,000 years ago, they appeared in the North region's sea and wreaked havoc. Later, they were subdued by the great Emperor Wang Qing and disappeared without a trace. Yi Fei's interest was piqued with just a few sentences. Could it be that the group of mermen you encountered is the same as the mermen that mysteriously appeared in the North region 10,000 years ago? That should be the case. Third Uncle and I once tracked down the merfolk's lair and wanted to confront them. However, these merfolk are extremely cunning. They hide in the depths of the sea, and there's a special restriction outside that prevents non-northern region people from entering. Apart from me, no one else can enter, Shang Luo explained in a vexed manner. Yi Fei suddenly noticed something strange. "Shang Luo, you don't seem to be from the North region, right? Why can you enter?" I'm strong enough." Boom. Without hesitation, Shanglua had already revealed his title. Wu Jun. Yi Fei was so shocked that he almost vomited blood. For the sake of breaking through to titled martial lord, he had fought with his life on the line, and had almost turned into a demon. Yet, this Shang Luo, who ran all over the place every day and even had the time to eat spirit melons, had actually easily become a titled martial lord. Comparisons were odious indeed. From this, it could also be seen how great the innate advantage of Emperor Z martial artists was. Not only was their destiny astonishing, but their cultivation speed was also very terrifying. Then, Yi Fei remembered that he had been abandoned by the heavens. He was so depressed that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. However, in the end, Yi Fei still decided to help Shanglua. After all, the spiritual eye was still in Shanglua's hands. At the same time, Yi Fei was also interested in this group of mermen who had disappeared for 10,000 years and suddenly appeared again. Seeing that Yi Fei had agreed, Shanglua quickly ordered her subordinates to drive the ship to the place where the mermen frequented. Then, she pointed to the whirlpool in the distance and said, "Yi Fei, look, that's where the mermen first appeared. But they seem to have some restrictions and can't go too far from this sea area. That's why I can find them easily." Restrictions and can't go too far from the whirlpool? Why does this sound a little like the Tomb Keeper? Yi Fei was very puzzled, but he didn't think too much about it. His main goal now was to get back the spiritual eye. He was just helping Shanglua teach the mermen a lesson. Yi Fei wasn't interested in other things. "Yi Fei, let's go down." Shanglua looked at the whirlpool and was eager to try. As soon as she finished speaking, she had already rushed into the whirlpool. Third Master Shang was very nervous and hurriedly urged Yi Fei, "Young man, I'll leave Luluo in your care." "Don't worry, Third Master." Yi Fei was very skilled and daring now. He wasn't even afraid of Shanglua. Naturally, he jumped into the whirlpool at an even faster speed. The moment he entered, he saw Shanglua trying her best to rush forward in the sea. However, there seemed to be an invisible resistance that prevented Shanglua from rushing in. On the other hand, Yi Fei didn't seem to feel any resistance at all. He couldn't help but feel very puzzled. Could there really be some kind of barrier here? Why didn't he feel it? "Yi Fei, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and rush to the front. Help me block this force." The mermen seemed to have increased their strength. Shanglua saw that she couldn't rush in. She suddenly swam behind Yi Fei and stepped on Yi Fei's back. Her hands tightened around Yi Fei's neck. From the looks of it, she didn't want to hang on to Yi Fei. Instead, she wanted to strangle Yi Fei to death. Even though Yi Fei had two special constitutions, the Battle Demon Golden Body and the Azura Battle Body, he still couldn't breathe. His face turned red and he had no choice but to rush forward fiercely. Boom! Then Yi Fei felt that he had collided with an invisible barrier. However, it seemed to have sensed the blood of the northern divine region in his body, and the barrier quickly disappeared. Of course, Shangluo, who was hanging on to Yi Fei, also used this method to smoothly sneak in. Who dares to intrude into the merman's territory? I don't care who he is. The chief has ordered that whoever intrudes will be killed immediately. Of course, the strange movements in the sea couldn't be hidden from the mermen who were hiding in a special space. Yi Fei and Shangluo had just broken through the resistance and rushed in when two shining silver forks stabbed towards them. One of them was even aimed directly at Yi Fei's heart. Yi Fei's gaze turned cold. What a cruel merman! Most importantly, they have been hiding in the northern divine region for 10,000 years. I've never heard of them before. One had to know that the northern divine region was closest to the sea. Logically speaking, if there were mermen in the sea, the northern divine region would be the first to know. However, for 10,000 years, there had never been any records of mermen in the sea in the northern divine region. This was a very strange thing. Then, Yi Fei wanted to capture the two mermen and ask them about the situation. However, even though he moved quickly, Shangluo, who was still hanging on to him, moved even faster. Roar! An angry dragon roar came from the space. The two mermen who had attacked almost fainted from fright. They were only 10th level martial kings. In order to deal with them, Shangluo had actually used the dragon rebel saber, a divine weapon. Even Yi Fei couldn't help but look at the two mermen sympathetically. Of course, under the dragon rebel saber, the two mermen didn't even have time to use their moves before they were knocked to the ground by Shangluo. Such actions caused even more of the merfolk who had rushed over to become furious. Among them, Yi Fei could even feel the anger of a titled martial lord. There's actually a titled Wu Jun among the mermen? Yi Fei was very surprised. He couldn't help but re-evaluate the merman's strength. Shangluo raised the dragon rebel saber and shouted, I don't care if he's a titled Wu Jun. How dare he deceive the pure feelings of a beautiful girl? Even if the omnipotent sage comes, I'll cut him down with my saber. Chapter 698. In the Eye of the North Sea. Oh no, she seems to be the eldest young miss that the leaders of the Merchant Alliance were talking about. She actually has a sacred artifact and can barge into the Eye of the North Sea? The mermen who rushed over were shocked to see Shangluo. Just like how Shangluo had investigated them, when they deceived the Merchant Alliance, they had also obtained a lot of information from the leaders of the Merchant Alliance. They knew that the upper echelons of the Merchant Alliance were not from the North region. That was why the mermen used some methods to trick the Merchant Alliance. The mermen had also thought that the Merchant Alliance might come. Naturally, they were prepared to deal with it. After all, they were a mysterious race that had hidden in the North region for 10,000 years. When they saw Shangluo and Yi Fei, the mermen were only shocked for an instant. One of the mermen, Wu Jun, rushed towards Shangluo angrily and said coldly, Are you the eldest young miss that the Merchant Alliance was talking about? You really don't know what's good for you. If we capture you, not only will we get more spirit stones, but we will also get a sacred artifact for free. Ha 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 ha. The nearby mermen all laughed wildly. This was the Eye of the North Sea, the territory of the mermen. Of course, they wouldn't take Shangluo and Yi Fei seriously. Seeing that Shangluo had a sacred artifact but Yi Fei had nothing, the merman Wu Jun, who appeared naturally, focused most of his energy on Shangluo. Wrath of the Sea God. The merman attacked directly. His 5 outstretched fingers were still connected to duck webs. It was very strange, but the power of this hand was very terrifying. He only slapped forward, and layers of waves had already turned into a mountain of knives that crashed towards Shanglu. At this moment, Yi Fei had no intention of making a move. There was not only one merman titled Wu Jun among the mermen. Instead, there were two mermen named Wu Juns. Just as the strongest merman, Wu Jun, rushed towards Shangluo, believing that Shangluo was the biggest threat, the other merman, Wu Jun, also stared coldly at Yi Fei. However, the merman Wu Jun had no intention of attacking. Instead, he looked at Yi Fei with disdain and said, "You should be Wu Jun from the North Sea, right? Humph. You actually dared to bring outsiders to the Eye of the North Sea. How audacious! Eye of the North Sea? Could this be the Sea Eye of the North region? I'm very curious. What's your goal for hiding here for 10,000 years? Why didn't you communicate with the North region?" Yi Fei did not attack immediately. Compared to attacking, he was more interested in obtaining information about these mermen. Communicate with you? With the current strength of the North region? The merman Wu Jun sneered, as if saying another word to Yi Fei would be an insult to him. This was especially so when he discovered that Yi Fei was only at the first stage of the Wu Jun realm. He had already broken through to the third stage of the Wu Jun realm. Therefore, he did not take Yi Fei seriously. Compared to killing Yi Fei, the merman Wu Jun was obviously more concerned about the battle on the other side. After all, Shangluo had a sacred weapon. This also made the merman very wary of Shangluo. Yi Fei also cast his gaze towards Shangluo, who had already started the battle. Dragon counterslash! Shangluo raised his sacred weapon in the face of the mountain of blades that Wu Jun pushed over. He swept the blade forward and the mountain of blades was completely shattered. This also made the merman Wu Jun extremely embarrassed. After all, he was a fourth-stage titled Battle Pet Warrior Wu Jun. He was 3 stages higher than Shangluo. Sea Dragon Roar! Roar! The sea eye churned. The merman Wu Jun angrily opened his hands and condensed a strange seal. He slammed them forward fiercely. The enormous vital essence had already formed a huge sea dragon phantom that bit at Shangluo's dragon counterslash. Clearly, this mermaid martial lord felt that the reason why Shangluo was so powerful was because of the saint artifact in his hand. As long as he seized the saint artifact, Shangluo would not be a match for him. Seeing this, Shangluo just smiled casually. "Humph, how dare you look down on me? Now I'll let you know my power. Great Void Hand!" Boom! Shangluo suddenly put away the dragon counterslash. With a strange glow in his hand, he slapped forward across the air. A huge void hand had already appeared above the sea dragon phantom's head. It slapped down again and pressed down. The sea dragon phantom was instantly smashed into a stream of light by the void hand. How is this possible? The merman Wu Jun was scared out of his wits. He was a 4th stage titled Battle Pet Warrior Wu Jun. How could he not be able to defeat Wu Jun, a 1st stage titled Battle Pet Warrior? Little girl? If Shangluo relied on the sacred weapon, it would be understandable. But Shangluo relied entirely on his own strength. Not only were the mermen in the crowd shocked, Yi Fei was also speechless. This Shangluo also had a combat power of 1,000,000. Do you want us ordinary martial artists to live? Go to hell! Sensing Shangluo's strength, the merman Wu Jun, who had his eyes on Yi Fei, did not dare to waste any more time. He had to kill Yi Fei as soon as possible so that he could join forces to deal with Shangluo. Neptune's fury. Yi Fei felt boundless waves rushing toward him. However, these were not real waves, but layers of terrifying mountains of swords. They formed a strange current and slashed toward him. Is this the martial arts of the mermen? Interesting. Seeing Shangluo take out the dragon counterslash, Yi Fei had an idea and also took out the phoenix blood sword. Yi Fei raised his sword and slashed out. He was too lazy to use any martial arts. However, with Yi Fei's combat power enhanced by the Azura combat body, even if it was just pure physical strength, He could easily shatter the mountain of swords with one slash. Then, without waiting for the merman Wu Jun to come back to his senses, Yi Fei's sword light did not stop. With a poof, it stabbed into the merman Wu Jun's shoulder. He did not kill him. He only stabbed a bloody hole in the merman Wu Jun's shoulder. Even so, that mermaid martial lord was so scared that he nearly lost his mind. How is this possible? Didn't they say that the martial artists of the northern region are all weak ants? How can he be so strong? The merman Wu Jun fell to the ground. He was still in a daze. He had thought that Yi Fei was weak, but it turned out that he was the weak one. What? Then, another scream was heard. Compared to his companion who had been stabbed in the shoulder by Yi Fei, the merman Wu Jun who was fighting with Shangluo was undoubtedly in a much more miserable state. He could not withstand a single blow. Shangluo had already swung the dragon counter-slash domineeringly, and slashed the merman Wu Jun to the ground. Yi Fei had the illusion that he had met the king of a mountain. More importantly, the king of a mountain was a beautiful girl. Seeing that their two strongest leaders had been defeated so easily, the surrounding hundreds of mermen all took a step back in fright. Many of them looked at Shangluo with fearful eyes. There was no doubt that in their eyes, Shangluo with the dragon counterslash was already a goddess of death. On the other hand, Yi Fei was ignored by the mermen again because he did not use too much of his strength. He was automatically treated as Shangluo's lackey. Yi Fei's heart was incomparably depressed. Stop. Both of you, please show mercy. Seeing the experts of the mermen subdued, the hidden merman chief could no longer sit still. He hurriedly walked out of the crowd. Chapter 699. Deep Sea Spiritual Pearl. Miss Shangluo, please listen to our explanation. We didn't mean to deceive you. In fact, we didn't know that we didn't fish up the deep sea spiritual pearl. We are also victims. The merman tribe leader was very good at quibbling. As a matter of fact, from the very beginning, he had completely shirked the responsibility of deceiving the merchant alliance, and the merfolk had actually become the victim. Yi Fei couldn't help but be wary of the mermen. These mermen were cruel and cunning. Why didn't the great Emperor Wang Qin kill them back then? Why did he leave them here to reproduce? After all, the mermen were a threat to the north region. Yi Fei immediately looked at Shangluo and wanted to remind her not to be fooled. However, Yi Fei soon realized that his reminder was unnecessary. With Shangluo's intelligence, how could she be fooled by the merman tribe leader? Not only that, Shangluo immediately followed the merman tribe leader's words and said, "So it's a misunderstanding. However, we did pay. You should give us the real deep-sea spiritual pearl, right? Yi Fei, how many do you think we should ask for?" Shangluo winked at Yi Fei. Yi Fei immediately understood that this lass was trying to take advantage of the situation to extort them. In any case, he did not have a good impression of these mermaids. No matter what, you should at least give me 100 or so as compensation. 100 deep-sea spiritual pearls? Why don't you rob us? Hearing Yi Fei's shocking number, the two injured mermen, Wu Jun, were so angry that they vomited blood. They wanted to tear Yi Fei apart. The merman tribe leader's face twitched violently. However, he quickly regained his composure. He gritted his teeth and said, 100 it is. We mermen are in the wrong this time. We should compensate you. You are really willing to give us 100? Shangluo was extremely shocked. One had to know that the deep-sea spirit pearl was extremely rare. Otherwise, she would not have been unable to find it even after searching for several years. Yi Fei had only casually mentioned it and waited for the mermaid to bargain. He did not expect the mermaid to have so many deep-sea spirit pearls. The merfolk patriarch also understood that his answer was a little abrupt. She hurriedly complained, "Young mistress, you don't know. Our race has been trapped in the eye of the North Sea for 10,000 years. Although the eye of the North Sea is rich in spirit pearls, we are trapped by the bloodline restrictions. We can't get close to the center of the eye of the North Sea at all. We can only watch as 1 or 2 spirit pearls are slowly washed out by the sea water every 100 years. If the 2 of you can enter the eye of the sea and take out all the spiritual pearls inside, I don't mind giving you 100. It turned out that the mermaid chief also wanted to use Shanglua's strength to enter the sea eye and take out all the deep-sea spirit pearls that had been accumulated for 10,000 years. When Shanglua heard that there were more than 100 deep-sea spirit pearls inside, her eyes began to sparkle. She was extremely charming. Without another word, she immediately charged into the depths of the sea eye with the dragon rebel saber. Yi Fei almost vomited blood. He hurriedly stopped Shanglua and looked at the merfolk patriarch warily. He asked, "Hold on. Why did the great Emperor Wang Qing trap you in the sea eye back then? Were you guarding something too?" "That's right. Our mission is to guard this sea eye for generations to come. We also don't want any disasters to happen in the northern region." The merfolk patriarch did not expect Yi Fei to know about the events of 10,000 years ago. She immediately explained with great sincerity. At the very least, Yi Fei could not tell that the merfolk patriarch was lying. Shanglua said anxiously from the side, "Let's not worry about that for now. The key is the deep-sea spirit pearls. They're the deep-sea spirit pearls." When she mentioned the deep-sea spirit pearls, Shanglua's eyes lit up. She forcefully dragged Yi Fei into the depths of the sea eye guarded by the merfolk patriarch. Yi Fei was depressed. He was even more curious about Shanglua's reaction. Seeing that there were no merfolk watching them, he asked, "Shanglua, what's wrong with you? These merfolk are a little strange. You can't even tell if they're telling the truth or not. What if it's a trap?" "So what if it's a trap? With our strength, can we find anyone in the northern region who can match us? This isn't the Central Plains. What's there to be afraid of? Plus, these merfolk can't trick me." Shanglua was very confident. Yi Fei was stunned when he heard that. He felt that Shanglua's words were not without reason. After all, he and Shanglua were invincible in the northern region with their current battle prowess. They were not afraid of the merfolk playing any trick. "Okay, then let's be careful. If the situation doesn't seem right, we'll retreat immediately. Follow behind me." Yi Fei activated the war demon golden body first and walked forward carefully. Shanglua did not speak. She only walked toward the depths of the sea eye in high spirits. She did not seem to be worried about any traps around them. What Yi Fei didn't know was that after entering the eye of the sea, Shangluo's beautiful eyes had turned into a charming light gold. Her eyes were constantly observing the movements in the depths of the eye of the sea, as if using this method, she could detect any threats. However, neither Yi Fei nor the merfolk patriarch who allowed Shanglua to enter the sea eye knew that Shanglua was hiding such a trump card. Seeing that Yi Fei and Shanglua had gone directly into the depths of the sea eye, the hundreds of merfolk who were still in the same place started to clamor. "Patriarch, why did you let those 2 outsiders enter the eye of the North Sea? The spiritual pearls in there are great benefits for us to improve our strength. Why did you let those lowly humans take advantage of them?" "That's right, Patriarch. You can't let them enter the sea eye. Not to mention the spiritual pearls, if they discover the secret in the depths of the sea eye." "Shut up!" The merfolk patriarch suddenly scolded them coldly. Then, she glared at the 2 merfolk Wu Jun and said, "We forgot what our master told us. We will never reveal any information." "Patriarch, we know we were wrong." When the merfolk patriarch mentioned their master, the 2 titled Wu Jun and the surrounding merfolk all knelt on the ground, trembling in fear. The merfolk patriarch snorted in satisfaction. "Remember, our master's existence is the greatest secret of our merfolk race. Even if our bodies and souls are destroyed, we cannot reveal anything. If we don't want our merfolk to be trapped here like prisoners for eternity, we have to carry out our master's orders at all costs." "Yes, Patriarch. Hundreds of merfolk prostrated themselves on the ground with fanatical looks on their faces. If Yi Fei was still here, he would realize that these merfolk were prostrating themselves in the direction of the sea. As for the two humans who went in, you don't have to worry about them discovering the secret of the sea. After all, there's not only the deep-sea spiritual pearls in there, there's also that thing. If it weren't for that, we wouldn't have to wait for the spiritual pearls to be washed out by the sea every 100 years. Chapter 700. Skeleton of a Warrior Saint. As they entered the depths of the sea, the pressure in the surrounding space increased. After only walking halfway, Yi Fei was already panting from exhaustion. However, he did not look depressed. Instead, he looked much more relaxed. Since the pressure of the sea was so terrifying, without a combat power of more than 1,000,000, it would be impossible to enter, let alone secretly set up any traps. It looks like what the mermaid said is true. With their strength, it is impossible for them to go deep into the eye of the sea, Yi Fei thought to himself. Then, he began to speed up. This made things difficult for Xianglua, who was following behind them. Although she was a martial artist with a combat power of 1,000,000, she was not from the northern region. If the pressure that Yi Fei felt from the eye of the sea was 1, then the pressure that Xianglua felt was 10. When Yi Fei walked slowly, Xianglua could still barely keep up with him. He used Yi Fei as a meat shield to resist some of the pressure. However, when Yi Fei began to speed up, Xianglua was unable to say anything. However, when he remembered that the deep-sea spirit pearl was the last ingredient needed to refine the ageless pill, Xianglua's eyes became fanatical again. When Xianglua realized that he could no longer withstand the pressure, he tightened his grip around Yi Fei's neck. His entire body hung onto Yi Fei's body to relieve some of the pressure. However, Yi Fei was having a hard time. He felt as though his neck was about to snap. Most importantly, Xianglua was stuck to his body like a koala bear due to the pressure. Yi Fei felt terrible. He knew that he couldn't get rid of this sticky candy for the time being. He could only gloomily activate the battle demon's golden body to defend himself. Only then did he feel much better. When he activated the Azura battle body and the battle demon golden body at the same time, Yi Fei was surprised to discover that these two constitutions didn't conflict with each other. So that's how it is. The battle demon golden body increases the defense of my physical body, while the Azura battle body increases the offensive power of my physical body. It also increases the power of my martial arts. If I can combine these two constitutions and form a brand new constitution, then wouldn't I be able to have both the war demon and Shura powers? Yi Fei's mind suddenly flashed with a flash of understanding. Although he had a vague idea of this in the past, the pressure of the sea this time made Yi Fei even more determined. There was no doubt that this was a completely new endeavor. Even the Devil Emperor and Zhao Qianjun had never taken such a path. Perhaps this is my path to becoming a martial god. Yi Fei's comprehension continued to deepen. If the Merfolk Patriarch knew that he had originally wanted to trick Yi Fei and Xianglua into coming here, but in the end, had allowed Yi Fei to comprehend his own martial Tao under pressure, the Merfolk Patriarch would probably vomit blood from anger. Huh? Why has the pressure disappeared? Xianglua had been hanging on to Yi Fei like a koala bear. However, after walking for a while, she suddenly felt that the pressure wasn't as great as before. The surrounding sea ice space had also become brighter. Could it be that we have finally reached the depths of the sea eye? Yi Fei heaved a sigh of relief. He could finally get rid of this sticky candy on his body. Yi Fei, I'm sorry. Since you've worked so hard, I'll give you this spiritual eye. Xianglua's face was a little red. After all, she was no longer the little girl from 3 years ago. She was a true beauty now. Of course, she couldn't keep hanging on to Yi Fei's body. Not only would that be inappropriate, but it would also be a little embarrassing. Therefore, after tossing the spiritual eye to Yi Fei, Shanglua excitedly rushed into the deepest part of the sea. Then, Shanglua couldn't help but scream. So many spiritual pearls. There are actually so many deep-sea spiritual pearls here. After putting away the spiritual eye, Yi Fei walked over curiously. With just a glance, Yi Fei's mouth was wide open. He couldn't believe it. The deep-sea spiritual pearls stored in the sea had actually piled up into a small mountain. How can there be so many deep-sea spiritual pearls? Even after 10,000 years, there shouldn't be so many spiritual pearls. Yi Fei was very surprised. Deep-sea spiritual pearls weren't very useful, but they were very rare. Even in the sea, there might not even be one deep-sea spiritual pearl formed in 100 years. However, in this sea space, there were at least 1 or 2,000 spiritual pearls. Seeing those spiritual pearls, Shanglua's eyes immediately turned as red as a rabbit. She rushed over and started to put all her spiritual pearls into her spatial ring. She looked as if she wanted to dig 3 feet into the ground. Of course, Yi Fei also rushed over and put a lot of spiritual pearls into her spatial ring. It wasn't that he needed them, but he was thinking about Xiao Qiao, who was still in a deep sleep. Since the spiritual pearls could make Shanglua disregard her image, Xiao Qiao was also a girl. She should like these things very much. Yi Fei thought to himself. The two of them quickly swept up all the spiritual pearls in front of them. Yi Fei took more than 500 spiritual pearls, while Shanglua took all the remaining ones. While the two of them were busy collecting the deep-sea spiritual pearls on the ground, they didn't notice that in the depths of the sea space, a pair of eyes flashing with green light was staring at them emotionlessly. At the same time, 2 cold lights silently flew toward their heads. Yi Fei didn't react at all. Shanglua, who was still picking up the spiritual pearls, suddenly had a faint golden light flash in her eyes. Oh no, someone is attacking us! Boom! Shanglua instantly drilled into the void and reappeared on the other side with lingering fear. That cold light also left behind a huge crater where Shangluo had been standing. Bam! On the other side, although Yi Fei didn't sense any danger, he reacted instantly after Shanglua's warning. He didn't enter the void to hide. Instead, he suddenly turned around and used his Battle Demon Golden Body and Azura Battle Body at the same time to attack the strange cold light. The cold light shattered and a deep wound appeared on Yi Fei's fist. Blood gushed out. Roar! Upon smelling the scent of blood, the figure that had ambushed them also rushed toward Yi Fei rapidly. It seemed as if it wanted to suck all of Yi Fei's blood. Yi Fei was also shocked when he saw the figure that had appeared. What the hell is this? Is this the mermaid's trap? Yi Fei looked at the figure that was rushing toward him and realized that it wasn't a person. It was a strange golden skeleton. It was this skeleton that had injured Yi Fei just now. It was also this skeleton that had failed to block Yi Fei's Battle Demon Golden Body and Azura Battle Body. Yi Fei's expression turned grave when he saw the wound on his hand. Shanglua was also shocked when he saw the thing that had ambushed Yi Fei. A bone demon transformed from a martial sage's skeleton? How could such a thing appear in this place? Shanglua's face revealed a trace of fear. What? This skeleton was transformed from a martial sage's skeleton? Yi Fei was also deeply shocked. A trace of fear flashed across his face. No wonder this thing could break his Battle Demon Golden Body with just one bone. It turned out that this thing was actually an omnipotent great sage when it was alive. Chapter 701. Bone Demon's Flaw. Although there were 12 levels in the martial sage realm, they were further divided into 3 small realms. Among them, the titled Wu Jun was the lowest, and the omnipotent sage was the highest. Similarly, as the bone demon that the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage turned into after his death, he did not have the cultivation that he had when he was alive. However, the bone demon that was formed from the bones of the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage was still terrifyingly powerful. Even the titled Wu Jun would not be able to survive against the Bone Demon, let alone the fact that the Bone Demon was an heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage when he was alive. Yi Fei, what should we do? Shanglua's voice sounded like she was about to cry. It turned out that this young lady was not afraid of anything, but she was most afraid of skeletons. Shanglua was so scared that she immediately hid behind Yi Fei when she saw such a huge skeleton in front of her. Furthermore, it was formed from the bones of a martial sage. Why don't we escape? Shanglua suggested. Run? Where do we run to? This is the eye of the deep sea. If we run, we will only agitate this bone devil even more. Yi Fei shook his head. Although the Bone Demon had broken Yi Fei's Battle Demon golden body, Yi Fei's Azura power had also successfully shattered its bone fragments. From this point of view, it could be seen that Yi Fei's Azura power still caused some damage to the Bone Demon. What I need to pay attention to now is to be careful not to get hit by this Bone Demon. Otherwise, with its sacred bones, my golden body defense might not be effective against it. Yi Fei quickly thought of a countermeasure. Roar. The Bone Demon roared angrily, but it didn't immediately attack Yi Fei. Yi Fei's action of shattering the bone fragment with a punch made the Bone Demon realize that the human in front of it seemed to have the power to harm it. Just like that, the man and the demon were wary of each other. Neither of them dared to make the first move. Strange. In the past, every time the Bone Demon woke up, it would immediately kill its target. Why didn't it make a move this time? Outside the eye of the sea, a group of mermen used a special method to make the water flow refract light, ingeniously creating a water mirror. Through the mirror, they could clearly see everything that was happening inside. When they saw that the Bone Devil was successfully awakened, they were very excited. They couldn't wait for the Bone Devil to immediately tear the two humans into pieces. In the end, the mermaid chief still lied. Although they were restricted by the Great Emperor's restrictions and could not leave this special space, after 10,000 years of searching, they still had a way to hide in the depths of the eye of the sea and obtain the spiritual pearls inside. However, with the appearance of the Bone Devil, the mermaids who went in died one after another. Gradually, more and more spiritual pearls accumulated inside. However, there were no longer any mermaids who had the ability to enter and obtain them. Until the appearance of Yi Fei and Shanglua, whose battle power was in the millions, was enough to exterminate the Merfolk clan. Therefore, the Merfolk clan leader came up with this vicious plan to use the Bone Devil to kill Yi Fei and Shanglua. Roar. In the eye of the sea, the Bone Devil let out a sinister and terrifying roar. The Bone Devil didn't have high intelligence. Its actions were completely based on its killing instinct. Of course, it wasn't as patient as Yi Fei. After waiting for a while, seeing that Yi Fei didn't take the initiative to attack, countless golden afterimages suddenly appeared on the Bone Devil's body. They quickly pierced towards Yi Fei. Not good. That's the Bone Devil's explosion. Yi Fei, be careful. Shanglua reminded in a panic. Great void steps. Having already suffered from these bone fragments once, Yi Fei naturally wouldn't continue to shatter these bone fragments. He moved his feet and charged into the void. Ga. Suddenly, the Bone Devil's sinister laughter rang in his ears. It seemed to be mocking Yi Fei for daring to underestimate its bone fragments. Shwa. More than 10 golden lights piercing towards Yi Fei suddenly stopped in midair. Then, they quickly changed directions and pierced towards an empty area. Ha ha, this fool. Does he think that hiding in the void will be of any use? The Bone Devil is best at capturing spatial fluctuations. The Merfolk clan leader kept sneering. She was waiting to see Yi Fei's tragic fate of being pierced by the bone fragments. Bone Devil, look into my eyes. Suddenly, Shang Luo suppressed her fear of the skeletons. Her eyes turned a faint golden color, filled with mystery and allure. Moreover, this allure was so alluring that even Yi Fei, who was hiding in the void, felt his entire body turn numb when he heard her voice. He had the impulse to turn his head and look at Shang Luo. The bone devil wasn't very intelligent. When it heard her voice, it instinctively looked towards Shangluo. Then, the green flames in the bone devil's eye sockets flickered. Even the golden bone fragments chasing after Yi Fei lost control and fell to the ground. However, this was all that Shangluo could do. She definitely wouldn't fight with this terrifying skeleton. Therefore, she controlled the bone devil. Shangluo said unhappily to Yi Fei, "Don't be in a daze. I can't control this skeleton." Roar. After all, it was a martial sage's corpse that had turned into a demon. Even though Shangluo had used her final trump card, she only managed to control the bone devil for 3 breaths. The bone devil's sacred bones had already released a sacred radiance. It was no longer confused by Shangluo's gaze. At the same time, it actually wanted to pounce on Shangluo and kill Shangluo first. "Monster, where are you going? Eat my sword." The moment Shangluo reminded him, Yi Fei finally reacted. Now was the only chance to kill the bone devil. Yi Fei immediately used his strongest sword move. Apocalyptic sword, apocalyptic style. Boom! The entire eye of the sea shook, as if it was going to be smashed to pieces by Yi Fei's sword. Unlike warriors, the bone devil didn't store blood, flesh, or meridians. This also meant that this monster wouldn't consume any quintessential essence. It could continue to fight endlessly. This was also the most terrifying aspect of the bone devil. Usually, when warriors encountered the bone devil, they would immediately flee. If they couldn't escape, they would immediately use their strongest attack to kill it. Otherwise, once their quintessential essence was depleted, even the strongest warrior would be killed by the bone devil. Roar. Sensing the terrifying power of Yi Fei's sword, the bone devil had no time to attack Shangluo. It roared loudly and the golden bone fragments suddenly formed a bone shield. The bone devil waved it and quickly blocked in front of its body. Boom! Yi Fei's sword beam slashed at the bone shield, but it didn't cause any damage to the bone devil. As expected of a martial sage. Unfortunately, my strongest sword attack didn't have any effect? Yi Fei was somewhat surprised, but he felt even more depressed. If he couldn't even kill the bone devil, how was he going to face the geniuses of the Central State? Yi Fei, don't be discouraged. Continue slashing. There are cracks on its bone shield. It's just that it's repairing very quickly. You just didn't notice it. Shangluo's eyes had a mysterious pale gold color as he quickly glanced at the bone devil. Yi Fei was very surprised. This bone devil could actually repair itself? This flaw was something that even Yi Fei, who was completely focused on the battle, didn't notice. How could Shangluo, who was standing so far away, see it with a single glance? However, Yi Fei immediately chose to believe in Shangluo's judgment. After the first strike, another apocalyptic sword had already formed a sword beam and slashed at the bone devil's bone shield. Roar! At this moment, the bone devil also let out an angry roar. Just as Yi Fei's sword beam slashed down, a weak golden light suddenly appeared on its body. It quickly flowed from its body into the bone shield in its hand and repaired the cracks on the bone shield. It also blocked Yi Fei's strongest sword attack once again. Chapter 702. Slaying the Bone Demon. After discovering that the Sky Destroyer sword was indeed effective against the Bone Demon, Yi Fei wasn't careless. An astonishing sword light once again formed a light pillar and blasted the Bone Demon's bone shield. Roar! The Bone Demon roared furiously after being attacked by Yi Fei. However, it didn't immediately counterattack. Instead, it used the bone shield in its hand to block Yi Fei's attack. At the same time, the green flames in the Bone Demon's eye sockets became even colder. Shangluo noticed the Bone Demon's change and couldn't help but remind Yi Fei nervously, "Yi Fei, be careful. It's deliberately draining your quintessential essence. Why don't we leave?" Shangluo had already obtained the Deep Sea Spirit Pearl, so she wouldn't come into contact with the Bone Demon if she could. "This won't do. We have to take down the Bone Demon." Yi Fei was different from Shang Luo. He was from the northern region after all. Hence, he was wary of the appearance of this group of mermen. Therefore, Yi Fei planned to kill the Bone Demon and see what secrets the Sea Eye held. Kill. Sky Destroyer Sword, 4th Sword. The 3 Sky Destroyer moves had no effect. Yi Fei brandished the Phoenix Blood Sword and immediately slashed out a 4th massive sword light. The entire Sea Eye flared up under this sword light as Yi Fei used his full strength. At this moment, the Bone Demon seemed to be very surprised that Yi Fei could release so many powerful martial techniques consecutively. However, the Bone Demon didn't shrink back. Instead, it was eager to continue exhausting its quintessential essence like Yi Fei. Ha ha ha! This human powerhouse is really brainless. Even if his attacks can injure the Bone Demon has the ability to recover. A merman named Wu Jun sneered disdainfully when he saw Yi Fei's actions through a water mirror. The Bone Demon is draining Yi Fei's quintessential essence. No matter how strong he is, once the quintessential essence in his body is drained, he will be a toothless tiger. The Bone Demon can kill him with one hand. A sinister and complacent sneer flashed across the Merfolk Patriarch's face. However, his sneer quickly turned into shock. Rumble! Seeing that his 4 consecutive strikes had failed to break the strange bone shield in Bone Demon's hand, Yi Fei's unwillingness to admit defeat was ignited. I can't wait to see how many slashes your martial sacred skeleton can withstand. Annihilation Sword! Yi Fei roared. After the 4th strike, the 5th, 6th, and 7th strikes followed. As the sword light was released, the 12 primordial spirits in Yi Fei's body started to circulate frantically, continuously providing him with the power of Azura. Roar! 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 The Bone Demon's roars gradually became more urgent. The originally weak golden glow on its bones gradually became stronger. Even the bone shield in its hand started to shine with a golden glow, constantly repairing the damage done to the bone shield. However, Yi Fei seemed to have gone mad. He did not care about anything else and continued to attack. In the end, Yi Fei did not even bother to count how many strikes he had made and how much energy he had used. After all, he had 12 primordial spirits in his body and had accumulated a large amount of energy in his body. Yi Fei did not have to worry about his energy being depleted at all. Shang Luo's eyes widened at this scene. She almost thought of Yi Fei as a monster. Of course, she knew that Yi Fei was using an Emperor-level martial arts technique. Furthermore, it was a complete Emperor-level martial arts technique. Usually, such martial arts techniques would consume a large amount of quintessential essence. If it were an ordinary titled battle pet warrior, Wu Jun's primordial spirit would have exploded, and he would have died an unnatural death if he continued to use the technique endlessly like Yi Fei. Even if Yi Fei's combat power was in the millions, Shang Luo thought that Yi Fei would only be able to make a dozen strikes at most. However, Yi Fei was like a madman. He had made 20 strikes in a row. Not only did his energy not decrease, but with the support of the 12 primordial spirits, Yi Fei became more and more ferocious. The more he attacked, the smoother he became. Under such an endless and almost limitless attack, even 10 bone demons might not be able to fend him off, let alone a small bone demon. In the beginning, the bone demon could still roar. However, as Yi Fei made 30 strikes with his sword, the bone demon continued to attack. Crack! The bone demon's bone shield could no longer withstand Yi Fei's relentless attacks. It shattered into a dozen golden bone shards and fell to the ground. At this time, from Shang Luo's point of view, even if Yi Fei broke the bone shield, he would definitely be exhausted to the point of collapsing. However, she discovered that Yi Fei wasn't tired at all. His fighting spirit was still soaring to the heavens, and his energy was limitless. Is he a monster? Shang Luo was speechless. Other than calling Yi Fei a perverted monster, she could not find any other words to describe him. At the same time, Shang Luo felt a deep blow to her heart. Both of them had a combat power in the millions. Shang Luo realized that if she were to fight against Yi Fei, she might not even be able to fight back. She would be defeated mercilessly by Yi Fei's endless attacks. Roar. Facing Yi Fei's crazy attacks, the bone demon was even more miserable. After the bone shield shattered, it only had time to let out a final roar. The endless sword light had already turned the bone demon into golden powder on the spot. The powder fell to the ground. How is this possible? The bone demon died just like that. And it was even turned into bone shards by that human? Outside the eye of the sea, hundreds of mermen had witnessed this scene with their own eyes. Even through the water mirror, many of the mermen's faces were filled with deep fear. This human, he's not human. Hallucination. I must be hallucinating. How can Wu Jun use emperor-level martial arts without limit? Isn't he afraid of his ethereal force drying up and his primordial spirit being destroyed? Two of the mermen, Wu Jun, roared at the same time. Especially the merman Wu Jun, who had fought with Yi Fei previously. His face had turned green with fright. The merman patriarch's expression was also ugly. She felt like she was scheming against a small fish but accidentally provoked a big shark. Seeing how abnormal Yi Fei was, the merman patriarch no longer had the heart to scheme against Yi Fei. Quick, open the stone door and let all of our people hide inside. Otherwise, if we wait for this kid to come out, our mermen might be wiped out today. The merman patriarch hurriedly ordered. Only then did the other mermen react. They had secretly planned to kill Yi Fei. Once Yi Fei came out of the eye of the sea, how could he let them go? Immediately, a large group of mermen swarmed towards another secret area in the eye of the sea. All of them wished they could grow another pair of legs. Heavens, the humans on land are too scary. Who said that the northern region had declined? Why do I feel that this person is even scarier than those cultivators from 10,000 years ago? The mermen discussed and soon disappeared. Only the two mermen, Wu Jun, remained. He looked at the merman patriarch with a hesitant expression and said, "Patriarch, if we go in like this, won't all those spiritual pearls be given to them? What if they discover Master's existence?" Chapter 703. Zhenwu Token in the Eye of the Sea. Yi Fei frowned as he looked at the bone devil that had been completely chopped into pieces. This bone devil is indeed powerful. I actually used up the power of 4 primordial spirits to kill it. What? You have 4 primordial spirits? Yi Fei, is this true? Suddenly, a small head popped out from the side. Yi Fei almost thought that the bone devil had appeared again. However, Shanglua's current appearance was a little comical. She was clearly so shocked that her eyes were about to fall to the ground. However, she still tried her best to maintain a very normal tone. I think you must have been scared silly. Your hearing must have been messed up. I also have 8 primordial spirits. Yi Fei knocked on Shanglua's head. It wasn't that he didn't trust Shanglu. However, the fact that she had 12 primordial spirits was too exaggerated. Moreover, the central region was a place filled with hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Even if he had 12 primordial spirits, he was still a far cry from the true monstrous geniuses of the central region. Wow, Yi Fei, you actually dared to knock my head. I will fight it out with you today. Shanglua didn't expect Yi Fei to do such a thing to her. Her face couldn't help but turn slightly red. Then, it immediately turned into intense anger. She jumped onto Yi Fei's body and used her 2 hands to hang onto Yi Fei's neck. Yi Fei felt very depressed. He hurriedly threw off the sticky candy on his body as fast as he could. Then, he pointed to the ground and said, "You don't want these treasures? I want all of them." It turned out that the bone devil had been chopped into pieces. However, the dozens of bone fragments that it used to attack Yi Fei were still on the ground. They actually didn't shatter. Yi Fei, who had already obtained a sage bone once, naturally knew that these bone fragments were the sage bones left behind by a martial sage. They were also the best materials for refining sage artifact. Who said I don't want them? These bone fragments are all mine. Shanglua unwillingly let go of Yi Fei. She immediately went to snatch the bone fragments on the ground. She looked like a money grubber. Yi Fei also wanted to snatch it, but suddenly, he found something strange at the place where Bone Demon died. Strange, why is there a token on the Bone Demon's body? Yi Fei walked over and curiously picked up the token. He only saw the words, True Martial, written on the token and nothing else. Thinking about it carefully, Yi Fei had never heard of anything related to Jinwu in the northern region. Could it be from other regions? Shanglua, come here. Help me see what this token is for. Yi Fei asked Shanglua. At this time, Shanglua also put away the bone pieces and walked over curiously. When he saw the medallion in Yi Fei's hand, Shanglua was obviously shocked. Isn't that the Zhen Wu medallion? Why does the Bone Demon have it? Could it be that this martial saint was from the Zhen Wu sacred courtyard when he was alive? True martial sacred courtyard? Is that the Wu province of the Central Plains? Yi Fei was confused. How could a martial saint of the Central Plains come to the Sea Eye of the North Sea and die here? Even his body turned into a bone demon. Wu province? Haha, if the people of the Zhen Wu sacred courtyard know that you think they are from Wu province, many of them won't mind beating you to death on the spot. Shanglua said with a smile. Is the Zhen Wu sacred courtyard very powerful? Yi Fei continued to ask. Shanglua beckoned Yi Fei to follow him. As they walked out of the Sea Eye, Shanglua explained to Yi Fei, above Wu province is the holy place. Above the holy place is the Saint Courtyard. The minimum requirement to enter the Saint Courtyard is to be titled Wu Jun and be no more than 100 years old. Do you think the Saint Courtyard is powerful? What? The requirements of the Saint Courtyard are so strict? A titled Wu Jun could be a monarch in the northern region. But in the Saint Courtyard, he was just a beginner. How could there be an age limit? The higher a warrior's realm was, the longer his life would be. For ordinary people, 100 years might be their whole life. But for warriors, 100 years was just the beginning of their youth and entering the prime of their life. After obtaining so many spiritual pearls, Shang Luo's mood was so good that he could fly into the sky. Therefore, he patiently explained to Yi Fei, every saint institution is very strict. You should know that every saint institution represents a part of an ancient saint sect's inheritance. For some reason, the holy sects have disappeared from the Tianwu continent. So now the most powerful saint courtyard in the Central Plains is the Saint Courtyard. So that's how it is. Yi Fei nodded in understanding. Only now did he know that the Saint Courtyard in the Central Plains was very likely founded by the inheritors of those ancient holy sects. Just like how the sacred grounds inherited a part of the ancient holy sect's martial arts, the Saint Courtyard also inherited a part of the ancient holy sect's martial arts. It was very likely that they were the core martial arts. And the true martial token in Yi Fei's hand was the test token to enter the true martial sacred courtyard. Once he obtained it, he could go to the true martial sacred courtyard to take the test and enter the Saint Courtyard. There are countless geniuses in the Central Plains. If I go alone, I'll be alone and will easily encounter danger. If I can enter one of the Saint Courtyards, I'll be able to gain a foothold in the Central Plains faster. Holding the true martial token, Yi Fei fell into deep thought. Shanglua didn't disturb Yi Fei's thoughts. Walking out of the Eye of the Sea, Shanglua carried the dragon rebel saber and furiously charged toward the place where the mermen lived. Yi Fei's face was also filled with anger. The mermen had deliberately concealed the fact that there was a bone demon in the Eye of the Sea. It was obvious that they wanted to kill them. At this moment, Yi Fei and Shanglua had the same goal. They wanted to settle the score with the mermen. At the same time, Yi Fei also wanted to know the true reason why the mermen were trapped here. Where the hell did those mermen go? Damn it, they actually ran away after getting us into trouble? Shanglua looked angrily at the empty space in the eye of the sea. Yi Fei was also speechless. Those mermen were extraordinarily cunning. They ran away after getting them into trouble. It seems like the mermen must have spied on our battle in the eye of the sea. Or perhaps the bone demon is connected to them. They know that the bone demon is dead, so they ran away too. Then what should we do now? Let them set us up for nothing? Shanglua was still very angry. Yi Fei also felt a little gloomy. It didn't feel good to be set up by others. More importantly, they were mermen. As the saying goes, those who are not of the same race will definitely have ulterior motives. These mermen had hidden in the eye of the sea for tens of thousands of years and didn't interact with the land. Even if they were under the orders of Great Emperor Wangqing to protect the eye of the sea, they didn't have to be so careful. These mermen definitely have other motives. Yi Fei quickly made a judgment. However, the sea was infinitely big. Since these mermen had decided to hide, it was undoubtedly very difficult to find them. However, they can run away, but they can't run away. They can escape in such a short time. They definitely won't be able to take away the treasures in the eye of the sea in time. Yi Fei only had time to say this. Shanglua, who was beside him, had already widened his eyes in excitement. Yi Fei, you're saying that we should rob them? Why didn't I think of that? I, Shanglua, have never done something like this in my entire life. I've happily decided that we should rob this sea in the eye of the sea. We can't leave a single spirit crystal for them. Chapter 704. Complete Looting Up. Looking at Shang Luo, who was in high spirits and had already begun to loot everywhere, Yi Fei suddenly felt a little regretful. He should not have said such a thing. Also, his original intention was that since there were treasures here that the merfolk could not take away in time, they could just lie in ambush here and wait for the merfolk to come back and take the treasures, secretly finding the merfolk's hiding place. Shanglua actually misunderstood that he wanted to loot the eye of the sea. How could he be such a person? However, Yi Fei could not help but feel tempted when he saw Shanglua finding a large number of precious underwater elixirs from the House of the Mermaids casually. Since Shanglua had already taken action, it was more important to take advantage of the situation. Therefore, Yi Fei happily joined in the looting. The two of them worked together and searched the houses one by one. Although the mermaids had been trapped in the eye of the sea for 10,000 years, they actually had a lot of treasures. Yi Fei's ring was filled to the brim with all kinds of elixirs, minerals, and cores of sea beasts. And this was the residence of the ordinary mermaids. When Yi Fei and Shanglua worked together to break the restrictions of the treasury hidden by the mermaids, the number of treasures inside was beyond Yi Fei's imagination. There are actually so many high-level elixirs. 10,000-year-old corals. 10,000-year-old blood agates. Sacred bones of the martial sage. And the broken sacred artifacts used by the powerful warriors of the North region 10,000 years ago. There were so many treasures in the treasury that even the treasury of the 4 nations of the North region combined was not as large as the treasury of the mermaids. The only pity was that most of the treasures in the treasury of the mermaids were materials for refining elixirs and weapons or treasures that were unique to the sea. If these treasures fell into the hands of a nation, the nation's strength would increase by at least 5 times. However, Yi Fei was not the ruler of a nation. He was a pure warrior. Many of the treasures in the treasury of the mermaids were useless to Yi Fei, and his family Yi had no intention of establishing a nation. Yi Fei could not help but feel conflicted. How should he use these treasures? Shanglua could also see Yi Fei's hesitation. She immediately blinked her eyes shrewdly and said, "Yi Fei, don't worry. You don't need these things. You can sell them all to us." "Yeah, why didn't I think of that?" Yi Fei slapped his head. He was so engrossed in watching Shangluo looting that he almost forgot that Shangluo was the eldest daughter of the Merchant Alliance. He could totally sell these materials to the Merchant Alliance and make a huge profit. As a result, Yi Fei became like Shangluo and started looting like crazy. The two of them did not know that their actions had long been seen clearly by the hidden merfolk using the water mirror. The mermaids and mermen were all enraged. As long as Yi Fei and Shangluo barged into a house, the eyes of the mermen in that house would immediately turn red. Roar, these damned humans! How dare they rob us of our treasures! Kill them, destroy them. Those are the treasures of the mermaids for 10,000 years, and they've been robbed by them just like that. Shameless, these two are too shameless. They're simply bandits. I can't take it anymore. Patriarch, let me out. I want to fight these two bandits to the death. Return my treasures, return my treasures. The mermaids were not only cunning, they were also very greedy. Of course, they would not allow their treasures to be robbed clean by Yi Fei right under their noses. Hundreds of mermaids kept roaring inside the stone door. They were so angry that their faces were distorted. They could not wait to rush out and fight the person who robbed them of their treasures. Only the Merfolk Patriarch and the two Merfolk Wu Jun were able to keep their composure. They kept releasing their auras to suppress the furious mermaids and prevent them from acting rashly. Everyone, bear with it. Those are just ordinary treasures. If we lose them, then so be it. As long as we can escape from the CI, we'll get back what we lost 100 times, or even 10,000 times. The two merfolk Wu Jun tried to persuade their mermaids. Yes, we must bear with it. We can't spoil Master's 10,000-year plan because of such a small matter. The Merfolk Patriarch also raised his arm and shouted, calming his mermaids who were about to go berserk. Just as the mermaids were making a ruckus, Yi Fei and Shangluo finally finished robbing the CI. Only then did the Merfolk Patriarch let out a sigh of relief. These two damned bandits, they robbed the treasures and did not discover us. They must have thought that we escaped and will leave the CI soon. The Merfolk Patriarch was pleased with himself. Patriarch is wise. The two Merfolk Wu Jun also quickly flattered him. In the CI, Yi Fei looked at Shangluo, who was satisfied and prepared to leave. Suddenly, he had a thought. He said to Shangluo, I feel that our robbing was not professional enough. There are still treasures here. Where are the treasures? Didn't we search the entire place? Shangluo was puzzled. Why aren't there any treasures? Aren't those treasures? Yi Fei suddenly pointed at the coral-made houses of the mermaids. These mermaids were unlucky. They were bored after being trapped here for 10,000 years. The only thing they could do besides cultivate was decorate their houses beautifully and compete with each other. Yi Fei had long noticed that these houses were different from the rest. This was because they were built with the best refining materials. These were all things that could be sold for spirit stones. Since Shangluo was not interested, Yi Fei would not be polite. He simply walked over and began to tear down the houses. Yi Fei, you don't have to go that far. Shangluo was shocked. Yi Fei's actions made her completely understand what true professionalism was. It was not enough to rob the treasures, but he even tore down the houses to rob them. Shangluo made up her mind that she would never do bad things with Yi Fei in the future. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing if others saw them. The mermaids who were watching this scene through the water mirror were no longer furious. They simply went berserk. The Merfolk Patriarch was also dumbfounded. She could not believe that Yi Fei was so shameless that he would not even let go of the houses they lived in. Therefore, under the witness of the resentment of the mermaids, Yi Fei only took a short time to tear down the houses of the mermaids into ruins. When he tore down the houses of the Merfolk Patriarch, Yi Fei discovered hundreds of deep-sea spirit pearls rolling out from the walls as he tore down the houses. There are actually so many spirit pearls hidden here. There's even a book on how to use them. Yi Fei simply put all the spirit pearls into his interspatial ring. When the Merfolk Patriarch saw this scene, he was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. These spirit pearls were hidden by various means after he became the Patriarch. He even deliberately hid them in the walls, thinking that no one would discover them. In the end, all of them were taken advantage of by Yi Fei. After his shock and anger, the Merfolk Patriarch lost his mind on the spot. "Shameless thief, how dare you do this? I will not live under the same sky as you." Boom! You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.